From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Okay, board to reconvene. Good morning, everyone. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Supervisor Gleason?
Yeah.
Supervisor Scrivener?
Here.
Supervisor Maggard?
Here.
Supervisor Couch?
Here.
Supervisor Perez?
Here. And thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Kern County. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 18th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin today's meeting with the flag salute led by our very own Supervisor David Couch. Following the flag salute, please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer.
Please stand, put your hand over your hearts. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As we do every week, I would like to call Mr. Nick Cullen, Director of Animal Services, to come out with our Pet of the Week. I saw the Pet of the Week in the back, and he or she? He is remarkably cute, adorable.
He is.
What is his name?
I have with me this morning William, or as we've just named him, Sir William.
Look at his ears.
Sir William is about a 10-month-old puppy, Chihuahua puppy. Beautiful markings. He's a brindle color. Like I said, 10-month-old. He's about 7 pounds. He's not going to get much bigger than this. Super sweet, super friendly, and he's at the Kern County Animal Shelter, available for adoption today.
Thank you again, Nick, for making the process so user-friendly and really affordable. $85 for the full service of an animal. You can bring him home safely without the fear of reproducing a bunch of more little ones that you're not prepared to handle. We take care of all of that, adoption fees and whatnot, $85.
Yes.
And hopefully Sir William gets his palace soon.
Just to give you a heads up, the dog I brought 2 weeks ago, her name was Clara. She didn't leave the building before she got adopted. I walked out, and an employee at the county adopted her in the lobby.
How wonderful.
I think Gleason's taking her shine today.
He is. He named her.
Oh, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all you do in our animal welfare services. Thank you. The County of Kern has previously provided notice that as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to the COVID-19 pandemic and in light of the governor's order, this Board of Supervisors meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comment could be given through email or telephone to the clerk of the board prior to today's meeting, and live comments through teleconference will be heard during the meeting. We will begin today by considering the consent agenda. All items listed with a capital C, capital A above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from consent, and it will be considered in its listed sequence with an opportunity for a member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. A member of the public may also comment on any closed session item. Madam Clerk, were there any public comments submitted on consent agenda items for this morning?
Yes, we do have one public comment. Do you want to read through the consent agenda, or do we want to hear the public comment and then you'll read through the consent agenda? Which do you prefer?
I'll read through the consent agenda, and then you can give us the comments on it. Consent matters begin on page 2, and they include items 1, 2, and 5 through 7. On page 3, items 8 through 15. On page 4, items 18 through 20 and 22 through 23. On page 5, items 24 through 31. And finally, on page 6, items 32 and 33. Madam Clerk, what do we have?
Madam Chair and members of the board, we have Louis Medina, who represents Kern Community Foundation. He would like to provide comments on item number 2 regarding the Jumpstart program. Mr. Medina, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning. Madam Chair and Honorable Supervisors, my name is Luis Medina, and I'm calling in on behalf of Kern Community Foundation to bring you good news and hope during these challenging times. In today's consent agenda is our Jumpstart Fundraising Technical Assistance Program to the community, detailing the 2019 cohort's accomplishments, the progress of this year's cohort, and the positive spillover effect the program is having among other nonprofits. Let me highlight just a few points for you. First, your $11,000 investment in 5 agencies in 2019 was multiplied more than tenfold in the new dollars from individual donors that participants were able to cultivate through Jumpstart. Second, in this year's Give Big Kern, which despite COVID-19 was our best giving day yet, the agencies that raised the most dollars and engaged the most donors, Independence to Grace and Bakersfield High School Foundation, respectively, are both Jumpstart participants. Third, besides performance data, the report provides moving testimonials from the participants you subsidized, as well as others who, seeing the value of Jumpstart, enrolled or are planning to enroll in the program at full tuition. You will also learn about 55 local agencies that participated in a free 4-part webinar series on financial resilience that Jumpstart offered twice this spring and was very helpful to the nonprofits in preparing for Give Big Kern. I hope you realize how indebted we are to you, our Board of Supervisors. We couldn't have launched Jumpstart locally without your support. Your investment in 10 agencies so far has turned into many agencies learning about effective fundraising and financial resilience when they need this knowledge the most. Our foundation has also benefited thanks to our collaboration with our partner Network for Good. Other community foundations, I want you to know, are taking notice of the unique private-public partnership Kern's Jumpstart program represents, and we hope it can be turned into a model for more communities. We will keep you posted on the current cohort and hope you will consider subsidizing more nonprofits in Kern County's Jumpstart program in 2021 and beyond. I want to thank you, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you for your comments, Louis. Thank you for all the goodwill you put forward into this community. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Okay, moving right along, I would ask my colleagues, if you don't have action or questions regarding consent, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay. Moving along to item number 3, public presentations. This portion of the agenda is reserved for matters that are within the jurisdiction of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, but not on today's specific agenda. And members of the public can weigh in on matters, ask for more information from staff, or for an item to be further researched. Madam Clerk?
We do have public comment this morning under public presentations. We're going to begin with a voice message from Nicholas Cisneros regarding eviction ordinance. And so we're going to play that voice message first.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Cisneros, NICOLAS, CISNEROS, a leader from Rexland Acres. I'm calling to comment on the Public Board of Supervisors meeting on August 18, 2020. Since you were there for us and with us, I urge you to please place an ordinance to protect the most vulnerable in our community, like renters, to avoid evictions, and it has to be done before September 1st. And beforehand, I thank you so much for doing so. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I now have a short email to read on the same subject matter. This is from Shulamit Schroeder, Good afternoon. Please put an urgency ordinance to protect renters from evictions during COVID-19. Thousands of Kern residents could lose their homes because they have lost their jobs during the pandemic. We already have a major homelessness problem. Please keep families in their homes and off the streets. And now we're going to go to teleconferenced public comment. We have 7 speakers waiting to address the board, and we're going to stick first with the subject of the eviction ordinance. We have quite a few speakers that want to speak on that matter. So we're first going to call on Jasmine De La Aguila with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. Jasmine, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board. And just so you are aware, the board does have the packet of information that you sent yesterday. They received it via email, and they have a hard copy in front of them. Please proceed.
Thank you, Ms. Krause. Good morning, Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors. My name is Jasmine De La Aguila with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. I have come to your board on multiple occasions to express the needs and concerns of residents in the past, and I've come to your board to ask for budget allocations for community prioritized items, care funding allocations, COVID-19 response recommendations, and through it all, the reoccurring theme of ensuring housing is available, affordable, and accessible has been outstanding. We, alongside our partners at Faith in the Valley and concerned Kern residents, respectfully request an immediate adoption of an urgency ordinance to protect tenants, create a county-wide rental, mortgage, and utility assistance program utilizing CARE Act funding, and the adoption of a fully funding right to counsel policy and program. In addition, we ask for the development of a data source and database with information to help analyze and understand evictions in Kern and across California in order to inform policy solutions. This can be done by calling a special meeting to discuss this item or by adding this item to the next Board of Supervisors agenda. People have been choosing between food, medicine, or paying rent. They've been reassessing their priorities and looking into safety net programs to fulfill their exceeding needs. But how much longer can this realistically be a solution? Our public health department has mentioned that we have not reached the peak of the disease, and the projections show that COVID-19 will stay with us until 2021. Residents are anxious, they're nervous, they're afraid of what is to come. Passing an urgency ordinance is the next necessary step to stop this anxiety and ensure that everyone can be housed and stay housed while COVID-19 positive cases diminish and the state of emergency is lifted. We have submitted a letter with our request, along with a report titled Evicted in Kern, and an ordinance template for your review and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Madam Chair, members of the board, now we're going to hear from Jose Garola. Mr. Garola, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. I'd like to speak regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Jose Garola. I am the mayor of the city of Arvin. And specifically, I'd like to address a countywide eviction ordinance, the enforcement of the governor's orders, as well as a rental, mortgage, and utility relief funding package for the community. First of all, I think that it is ridiculous that we have people in elected office that refuse to enforce the governor's orders, and when asked to enforce them, speak about other issues and topics that are not related with respect to releasing of inmates rather than enforcing the governor's orders. We know the importance of wearing masks. We know the importance of following those orders, and Kern County is near the top in terms of positivity rates and in terms of our capacity to handle this COVID-19 pandemic. The city of Arvin has led the way in enforcing the governor's orders, but we could only do so much. I ask the Board of Supervisors to take the actions necessary to enforce these orders and to do what they can to help reopen Kern County's economy. Not taking these actions puts businesses and people's livelihoods and lives at risk. Second, with respect to a countywide eviction moratorium, the city of Arvin is looking into adopting its own The city of Delano has already adopted it. However, if the county takes a blanket county-wide approach, many more people will be protected under this eviction ordinance, and I urge the board to do so. Lastly, with respect to a relief package using the Karzak fund for rental, mortgage, and utility funding, this is something that I was interested in introducing within the city of Arvin. However, staff informed me that county staff said we're not able to use county funds that the city of Arvin should receive from the CARES Act to adopt and implement its own program. So if the city of Arvin is not being allowed by the county to do such a program, I ask that the Board of Supervisors adopt their own countywide or allow the city of Arvin to do so. This is important. We need to provide relief to our constituents, to our community. So I ask the County of Kern, the Board of Supervisors, to either lead or get out of the way and let cities do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ridai Patel. Mr. or Mrs. Patel, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Hi, yes, my name is Riddhi Patel. I live in Bakersfield, California. I want to make it very clear that I support everything that Jasmine Del Aguila and Mayor of Arvin, Jose Garola just said. I don't even know how to follow them. They did amazing. But I do know that 20,000 residents are about to be evicted in Kern County, and this is your entire job. So I don't understand how you haven't done anything already. And it's very clear that we need a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures and a fully funded rent and mortgage forgiveness program. So I'm a little bit frustrated that I have to call in and ask you to do your job, but I hope that you can, step up to the leadership role that you've been elected to and actually protect the members of this county. Because right now you're failing to do your job, and it's ridiculous that we have to call in and ask you just to do something. That's it. Bye.
The next speaker is Kaylee Cho. Kaylee, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. My name is Kaylee Cho. I've lived in Bakersfield my whole life and currently am studying urban planning at Cal Poly SLO. I hope to one day influence my area in a similar way you influence Kern County today. That's why I would like to talk about the consequences of COVID-19 on our residents' safety. I'm calling for an urgency ordinance that protects renters from evictions during the pandemic. This is because during stressful times like these, no one should worry about secure housing, especially as the school year starts and many people don't have the same access to childcare. Many of my friends and family are struggling with childcare, and with distance learning taking place, housing shouldn't be an extra source of stress on top of everything else. The second reason is, after growing up in Bakersfield, I know that houseless people are criminalized by our community. If our people are being evicted and are on the verge of homelessness during a pandemic, it's time for you to step up to protect us. After reading Evicted in Kern by Faith in the Valley, I learned that 20,000 people will be vulnerable to eviction if you don't pass an urgency ordinance. Please protect our county's residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Salvador Solorio. Mr. Solorio, if you will unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board. Mr. Salvador Solorio, if you can unmute your phone by pressing *6, you're welcome to address the board.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. So my name is Salvador Solorio Reese, an elected member on the Kern County Central Committee for District 4 and a community resident in Delano. I'm calling because we need a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures and a fully funded rent and mortgage forgiveness program. No Kern County resident should lose their home or be evicted due to COVID-19. Many people across the country and, of course, in our very own county have lost their jobs, including close friends of mine and family as well. And now they have to worry about losing their homes and risk jeopardizing the health of themselves and their families. On top of living through this pandemic, people should not have to worry about losing their home. Also, how can individuals quarantine and stop the spread if they lose their home? What message does that send? I strongly urge you to pass a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures and establish a fully funded rent mortgage relief program to protect renters and mom and pop shops and landlords during this major health crisis. Can Kern County families count on you to do your job they elected you to do, to pass these measures and keep our families safe? You have these positions for a reason, to fight for your community in times of need. And that time of need is now. I urge you to make a stand and fight for families all across Kern County. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Brian Osorio. Mr. Osorio, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good morning, Chair and Board of Supervisors. This is Brian Osorio, Council Member for the City of Delano. I think the points I wanted to make have made across the board. I just want to clarify and affirm that I stand with the residents of Kern County in encouraging your board to prioritize and implement a local urgency ordinance on evictions and to fund a utility relief assistance program. I think it's very clear that housing insecurity is very real, that there are a lot of financial insecurities that people are facing because of this pandemic. These structures have been set in place where people are already struggling even before the pandemic, and it's just exacerbating the issues. Just one last point is if there isn't these programs to help relieve people's financial obligations, it will lead us to a point where people won't be able to have homes to shelter in place, and it will just be contrary to the point that government leaders, state leaders are making, which is stay home, and prevent the spread of the virus. But that can't be done if people have no homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dalton Jones. Mr. Jones, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hi, my name is Dalton Jones. I'm a community organizer with Faith in the Valley Kern, and I just want to echo all the people who spoke ahead of me. Everything that they're saying, I really, really hope you all hear. I want to bring light to the Evicted in Kern report, where Faith in the Valley, specifically Dr. Janine Nkosi and Dr. Amber Crowell, spent months looking into all of Kern County's eviction records for the past 10 years. And we saw that over 42,000 evictions took place from 2009 all the way to 2019. And that's where we saw the numbers of 20,000 households at a minimum in Kern County are going to be impacted on September 2nd once the eviction protections by the governor as well as the Judicial Council are repealed. And then we also saw that 24,000 children in those homes are going to be those people who are going to be on the streets as well. And presently, Kern County has no eviction protections to make sure that they're safe. To further that, we also went through the counties and cities of Stockton, Fresno, San Joaquin, Alameda, Kern County, Merced, and Stanislaus, and we were able to have scorecards. On the scorecards, we had a score of 0 to 5, and Kern County has a 0.5 score because we presently have no protections for people, and we're one of the lowest from out of all the cities totaled. We're one of the lower counties, and I think just to echo everybody else's sentiments, we need to pass an urgency ordinance to make sure families here are safe. Leadership Council did an amazing job drafting one that is in all of your emails for now, I think the third time, that you all can sign today. You can put your name on. You can adjust it however you would like. The Leadership Council, Faith in the Valley, all of us and none, and the rest of the BHC partners and the elected officials that have also spoken today, and so many community members have honestly been waiting for you to do your job and pass this urgency ordinance. I really, really hope that you all do that. And to debunk the myth that landlords aren't waiting to evict people, 2 landlords in Kern County tried to sue the Judicial Council weeks ago so that they could begin to evict people. So there are landlords who are waiting to put people on the street so we can have more people impacted by homelessness and COVID-19 during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Merritt Holloway. Mr. Holloway, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you have 2 minutes to address the board.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Okay, I've spoken before, but look, just really quickly before I start, to Supervisor Mike McGard, I contacted your office yesterday, and they said that during the COVID issue that you weren't taking in-person appointments, so I'm hoping that we could maybe have a 20-minute telephone interview to discuss these critical issues. Okay, so I'm reiterating my intent to sue the government and health officials for breaking the law, putting the citizens' lives at danger by forcing compulsory mask mandates that ignore the scientific data and face mass risk. Okay, then really quickly, reparations now for American descendants of slaves, ADOS, Black Americans built this country, created untold wealth, and then, let me see, Americans repaid ADOS for centuries of free labor, rape, murder, and theft. We're not looking for Indian, Jamaican, not Black, nor ADOS VP. We demand reparations, economic justice, and the return of things stolen to us, especially our minds. Cut the check. Now, where's the emergency? I'm talking about the masks now. And perhaps the next meeting you can show the pictures. Hopefully you got the pictures. The clerk didn't say anything. She said that she gave you guys the papers from the other people. So I don't know if you're getting my papers. But anyway, maybe you could show the pictures. And supervisors, all of you, I just feel bad for you because underneath those masks, you probably look like those pictures that I sent you. Okay, so there are many side effects of mask wearing, including Candida growth, yeast infection, hypoxemia, low blood oxygen levels, headaches, dizziness, decaying teeth, and gum inflammation, and depleted oxygen levels. Dentists have found oral hygiene issues from wearing masks. They call it mask mouth. Most bacteria lives in temperatures that are hotter and colder. Bacteria do best in warm, moist, protein-rich environments like behind the mask, okay? If the masks work, that's one thing. However, reading the actual CDC, WHO, and NIS documents and others, it is indisputable masks are ineffective at keeping COVID-19 viruses out because the mask pores are magnitudes larger than the so-called virus, and they're also aerosolized. They stay in the air. Okay, the actual science says that they know wearing a mask outside of healthcare facilities offer little, if any, protection from infection. So basically, you guys have us wearing a mask. You're suffocating us. I have it here. I wrote it down. Something about that you're suffocating us. And you know what? Even it says the actual science says that they know wearing a mask outside of healthcare facilities offer little, if any, protection from infection. It could take up to 30 minutes of face-to-face contact to even pass the virus, if that is even really possible. The real solution is to make masks voluntary, and because according to the
Sir,
they don't work.
I'm going to ask you to wrap. Can you wrap up, sir? I'm so sorry. You're almost a minute past your time. I don't mean to be rude, but that's just our structure.
Okay, no. Listen. That's fine. I don't have a clock, so I don't know when the time is up. Okay, like I write something and I try to write about 2 minutes worth of speaking time.
I understand.
Okay, according to okay. But look. So the wrap up is to make masks voluntary. But look, where is the emergency? Okay, we need to get back to normal. Well, there's no. This is the new normal. Like I understand that, but we need to open up stuff and quit having people wear the mask. How are you going to pay for the lawsuits and stuff like that? And other people are saying you guys are not doing your job. But hopefully you're getting my messages. And also, Supervisor McGard, I want to schedule I've already contacted your office. So I'm just putting you on notice. I want to speak with you for 10 or 20 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Supervisors.
Thank you.
Okay.
And just so the board is aware, you did receive Mr. Holloway's email yesterday.
With the pictures.
With the
referenced.
pictures.
Okay, thank you so much.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes public comment.
Okay, so we've received all voicemails that were provided before, the written emails, and now the live testimony.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McGard, do you want to make any contributions, or you wait till your phone date? Okay, got it. Thank you. We're going to move to, I'm sorry, excuse me. Supervisor Couch, you had something?
Yeah. Are you going to give a report, Mr. Zervis, on the CARES Act? I'll wait till then. Thank you.
I would ask you, Mr. Alsop, I know we've had this discussion in the past, as all of us are very concerned about adding numbers to our homeless population. We've discussed possibilities, opportunities on the eviction reality that we are facing, and I would appreciate an update from you, Mr. Alsop, as to where you see this body vis-a-vis the state. What are our options? Of course, a majority of this board would have to make a decision about changing any budgetary items, but certainly we can provide for the public some sense about what is possible. And if you could just give the public a sense of where we are, since we received so much public comment, and my office has been fielding dozens, really hundreds of calls on this matter. So an update from you would be appreciated. Mr. Alsop.
Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will provide a couple of comments, and maybe I'll kick it over to Margot to give you some background on this whole eviction moratorium issue. In just listening to the comments, and just to cut right to the chase, if your board is interested in providing some sort of rental or mortgage assistance program, there are some ways to do that, and your board consider whether or not you want to provide or take up or pass any local ordinance addressing the issue. One idea is that you can direct our staff to provide the flexibilities that the mayor of Arvin had requested in his phone call. Right now, that money that was provided by your board to assist cities, which you didn't have to do, but you did, was to provide and help cities deal with their costs of dealing with COVID-19. We are happy to call the mayor of Arvin and all the other cities to let them know that will allow them to use that money for them to implement their own rental assistance programs for their own communities in their own incorporated areas. In addition to that, if your board would like to direct your staff to bring back an item for you to consider where we could join with the city of Bakersfield and provide some additional funding, some CARES Act funding. The city of Bakersfield is going to be working with the Housing Authority of Kern and Stephen Pels through their entity to provide some housing assistance, rental assistance, et cetera. And if your board would like to direct staff to bring back an item for you to consider to have the county match what the city is putting into that fund, that would bring that fund and this effort would provide that effort $10 million. If we were to match what the city is putting in through their CARES Act funding, we are happy to bring back that item for your board to consider. And with that, I'll ask Margot to comment on what's happening with the state and everything else.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. As you may know, or certainly it seems that most of the callers did know, there was action last week by the Judicial Council that they voted to sunset the two orders that were issued by the Judicial Council related to unlawful detainers and judicial foreclosures earlier this summer. So last Thursday, the Judicial Council voted to have those two rules sunset effective September 1st. So during the period of time that those rules were in effect, there was a moratorium on unlawful detainers and judicial foreclosures. So right now, those still exist, but as of September 1st, those bans will be lifted. However, there are at least 2 pieces of legislation working through the state legislative right now that address issues of evictions, unlawful detainers, and judicial foreclosures. I don't know the status of them, but I know that they are moving through committee and are being considered. So as of now, for the next 10 days or so, there is still a ban on foreclosures and unlawful detainers. And unless the state legislature does do something, those bans will be lifted effective September 2nd. Landlords can go ahead and file petitions in court. Again.
Well, my office has fielded a lot of calls on this issue. We have encouraged people from day one to pay whatever rent they can as consistently as they can, knowing that those monies would all eventually be due at some point per the contractual agreement between the landlord and the tenant. And we have found that in instances where tenants even had to pay less or had less as a result of any myriad of circumstances, that the landlords have worked with them, and we have worked as an intermediary between landlords and tenants, communication being so critical, of course. So we continue to offer that service. We continue to ask people to call our office and help us help them by being an intermediary and sort of calming the situation between landlords and tenants that is very tenuous and stressful for all parties at this time. So we continue to do that. We have not been given clear direction from the governor yet, although we are awaiting it and believe that it is forthcoming on a plan to pay back rents that are due. Of course, landlords expect to be paid and have bills themselves as well, so the matter is very complicated. And I would like to know what you believe is the wisdom of adding this matter to an agenda item so that we can flesh it out publicly, what it would mean, what it would look like, what it would mean to other areas of our budget, so that we can give some clear answers to the public and they can understand where board members stand on these matters.
I'm not sure about the wisdom, but I certainly think that continuing to monitor what the state is doing, should the state enact legislation that addresses these issues, then I think having the opportunity to explain clearly what that will do and how that impacts both landlords and tenants is certainly would be a very good thing for your board to do.
Mr. Alsop, our budget hearing is August 25th, and that is the last time we will be discussing the budget for the next fiscal year. Can we add this item? Can we incorporate it into the conversation? Given the amount of interest from the public, the amount of uncertainty, it seems that we should at least provide some clarity, even if the political will to take action regarding budget isn't present. And I actually don't know that, but I'm going to assume that moving into budget hearing.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, if it's your direction to staff to have that discussion and have an agenda item brought back, I would need some clarity on what you want brought back specifically, and we're happy to do that on the 25th.
Well, that would really be the last opportunity for us to do something if this board wanted to do something. And so that's why I'm asking if it makes sense now to.
That would not be the last opportunity for your board, Madam Chair. That is just the budget. The budget is finalized and has been printed and provided and distributed, made public. And we're going with what we've got. This would, any consideration here in terms of some sort of a financial assistance program, if your board wishes to pursue that, you're able to do. You're able to do it any time. Okay. Keeping in mind that currently, unless Congress acts again to provide some changes to CARES or provide some additional assistance, all of this money must be spent locally by the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, and if it is not spent, it's taken back by the federal government. But your board can act post or subsequent to the 25th. I would also say that, obviously this entire issue dealing with this pandemic is falling squarely on the county. We're the ones out there every week talking about it on camera. We have our public health department and all the work they're doing. It's all hands on deck here, the county monitoring, tracing, containing, testing. CARES Act money is being utilized to pay for an alternative care site. CARES Act money is being used to bring in 84 additional nurses from outside the county to staff hospitals. These are incredibly expensive endeavors. CARES Act funding is being used to pay for the county's costs, whether it's the activation and operation of the Emergency Operations Center or all of Mr. Constantine's costs, or the extraordinary costs that are borne by our first responders at the sheriff or the fire department. All of these things need to be considered. Obviously, we're using CARES Act money. Your board has distributed a sizable chunk of money to incorporated cities around the county to assist them. There has been $30 million of that money infused into the local economy to support small business and their employees. I'm saying this to give you an idea of all of the work that your board has been doing and the leadership that you've been providing to make sure that this money is spent effectively, wisely, et cetera. So with that said, there is an opportunity for your board to direct staff to do something in this area if you would like, and I'm happy to bring back an agenda item making a recommendation on something like that with some clarity by your board today. I'm happy to do that on the 25th. I'm happy to do that post the 25th or September 1st, I'm being told by our clerk.
Okay, well, I really appreciate you giving us.
And the state should have, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the state should have something done by then, so there should be some clarity on moratoriums and where that is with the state prior to September 1.
That's very helpful, thank you. Supervisor Gleason, your thoughts?
Thanks. I appreciate it. You answered my question, the last thing you said about the state getting back to us and letting know how they're going to make adjustments, if they're going to make adjustments. But I would like to know more, actually. I would like to know where this all fits in the scheme of things, how we're prioritizing the balance of our CARES funding. If this has a place in that for our attention, I'd be certainly willing to entertain any thoughts you have. And so, yes, I'd be interested in knowing more about this issue and seeing how it matches up against funding from the CARES Act and what opportunities we have to leverage our our CARES funding to other communities, other jurisdictions, and their ability to chip in also. Thanks.
Supervisor Gleason, thank you so much for that. Supervisor McGard.
Thank you. Mr. Alsop, when can we have, in conjunction with what you just suggested, but it prompts me to a broader question with regard to the use of the CARES Act money, can we have a sense of, how much we received, what we've spent, what is scheduled to be spent, and what requests are pending, so we have a sense of how to balance what we think we have remaining versus what potential obligations we have for it before we spend in any one area? I'd like to know how it looks as a whole.
Yes, sir. Madam Chairwoman, Supervisor Maggard, we would certainly make that information available to you in anything we would bring back in terms of a recommendation. We would give you guidance on that and where it fits into the grant, under the big umbrella that is CARES and relative to whatever the current status is in the county with regard to COVID and the needs.
And a little more treatment of why a city can't do whatever they want COVID related with the city allocation we give them. When it comes back, give us more about that too.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. It seems to me you have a majority, Mr. Alsop, of this body that would at least like more information and see where our flexibility lies. So, Madam Clerk, are you suggesting that September 1 is better than August 25?
That is strictly up to your board. We can place an item on the budget hearing agenda if if there's enough time for CAO to get everything together and bring the item forward, or we can place the item on the September 1st agenda.
To me, that August 25 agenda makes the most sense, given that we are discussing the budget items for the next fiscal year. This is not my expertise. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Madam Clerk, when do we have to have all of this information to you for publishing purposes, et cetera, for the 25th?
Very good question, because we have already received and have drafted the budget hearing agenda. The deadline to submit materials for that agenda was last Friday. We'll be putting that agenda to rest and posting it on Thursday. So I don't know that there is sufficient time, depending on how long it takes the CAO to get this information together.
Madam Chair, even I agree with you that it makes the most sense on the 25th because it's sooner rather than later. I think we'll know more about where the state is by September 1st, and it will give my office a little bit more time to provide you with some quality recommendations on this particular issue. That is our goal, is to provide the smartest, most efficacious, obviously, recommendation that we can on this item. And I think we would be challenged to do that between now and Thursday. But we certainly could do that. It would just be better on our end for the September 1st.
Got it. Supervisor Maggard, your thoughts?
Excuse me, I don't know how I'll feel about this or what positions I'll take with regard to it, but if we're going to affect evictions that could take place on September 1, how does it help if we don't have a discussion prior to September 1? So in whatever form, to whatever extent we can have that discussion on the 25th, seems to me I'm trying to offer an opportunity to our chair to affect this if she wants to do that. That ought to happen on the 25th. So
That is such an excellent
just my
point.
thoughts.
I hadn't thought of that. If we could have something by the 25th, Ryan, and I'm so sorry to do this to you, but when the public sort of is demanding this kind of response from the county, again, this board may decide to do nothing, and I recognize that. But it appears to me we need to answer up and answer quickly. And I'm sorry to impose that on you, but I'm compelled by the September 1 deadline that we should have some discussion on this August 25.
If that is the request being made by the board, we will bring it back to you on the 25th. We'll bring back a recommendation for your board to consider, or a set of recommendations for your board to consider on this issue on the 25th.
I really appreciate that. My apologies, Madam Clerk and Ryan, for the challenges this poses. Really, I appreciate you very much. Supervisor Maggard, thank you for that helpful direction. I appreciate it. Okay, what do we have under public presentations?
Public presentations is now concluded.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move to number 4, which is board member announcements and reports. And I'm going to take a few moments, ask my colleagues to indulge me, please. I have some information that I'd like to share and that I'm quite proud to share. I would like to take a minute to say a few words about Raul Camacho, the publisher of El Popular newspaper here in Kern County. Recently, I requested a certificate of recognition from our board to be presented to Mr. Camacho to recognize his service to Kern County. In 1983, Raul Camacho moved from Orange County, California to Bakersfield to establish what had long been a dream of his, to publish his very own newspaper. Mr. Camacho had previously worked at a Mexico City newspaper as a beat reporter and photographer before immigrating to the U.S. in the late 1960s. On August 26, 1983, Raul Camacho Sr. published his first issue of El Popular, entitled El Periódico de la Familia Latina. El Popular became the first Spanish-only newspaper in Kern County and was soon adjudicated as a newspaper of general circulation in 1985. Although Mr. Camacho has long been retired, he remains the founding publisher of El Popular, which is still the only Spanish-language newspaper in Kern County after 36 years. George Camacho Sr. is the publisher today. I wanted to share his story with my colleagues and the public and wish him well and properly thank him for his remarkable contributions to Kern County, of its beautiful diversity and many cultural heritages. Thank you, Mr. Raul Camacho, for your service and for your family's dedication to Kern County. Thank you so much. Mr. Constantine, our Director of Public Health. Oh, yeah, I was going to come to you after Mr. Constantine, but if you want to do it now, Supervisor?
I have something.
Okay. So, Mr. Constantine, after Mr. Constantine, we'll go to Supervisor Maggard and then Supervisor Gleason, unless you need to speak now.
Board member announcements?
Yeah, it'll be still under board member.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just wait you want to go.
Thanks, Meg. Mr. Constantine, the floor is yours.
Madam Chair, good morning. Board members, good morning. This morning we are announcing 180 new cases in Kern County residents of COVID-19 and unfortunately 12 new deaths in Kern County residents. As has been discussed earlier this morning, the hospital staffing plan where the county has established a contract to bring on more than 80 ICU nurses is in full swing. Those nurses have been identified and they are starting to relocate into Kern County. As of, I believe, this morning, there's approximately 6. Next Monday, there will be an additional 10 that will arrive. So that is taking a little bit of time to staff up, but those nurses are arriving and starting to staff our acute care hospitals. So that's terrific news and provides some really good relief to our local hospitals. We've also been working very hard on our school waiver project. As you'll remember, the state issued some guidance that indicated that schools needed to do distance learning only, not in person, because of the monitoring list. But they did provide an avenue for elementary schools to request a waiver under certain conditions. We have received more than 20 schools that have expressed interest. We had received and completed and reviewed 2 that we have now sent to the state. We understand that there's quite a few more that are coming and will be delivered to public health. As has been the board's direction, the county has continued to try to provide as much sharing of data as possible. With Margot's leadership and guidance, we came into contact with a HIPAA statistician that helped us release additional information some time ago, mostly surrounding geographic information. It was an avenue that was provided to us through the law. With unfortunately, our increasing number of deaths in Kern County, Margot has again assisted us with trying to find some avenues for us to release additional data to those that have passed from COVID-19. We are working through that now. We're exploring options. Initially, the statistician indicated that we could not release that data because of our initial interest to release daily information. We've asked him to explore other options if perhaps we don't release it on a daily basis to try to provide some information regarding deaths in Kern County. So I'm grateful for Margot and her leadership there and her willingness to assist us in exploring all options possible. On plasma donation, Houchin continues to receive a lot of interest, and really as a thank you to the county's efforts. Ryan has been helpful, and the health benefits group has been very helpful in trying to spur interest. Houchin is indicating that since July 27th, they've received 182 donors that have donated plasma and have given 674 units of plasma. Their last comment is the most powerful. They say, we do not have any outstanding orders from our hospitals. So that's good news so far, and it's working so far. And then finally, the last prepared comments I have is on our skilled nursing facilities. 17 of our 19 facilities now have either experienced or are experiencing some sort of outbreak, so that number continues to grow. In 2 weeks, on September 1st, we will bring forward a formal presentation and provide you a very thorough update on our progress on our efforts to address skilled nursing facilities. Madam Chair, that concludes my prepared comments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Constantine, and I have some comments about the plasma stuff, but I'll wait. Colleagues, I see Supervisor Gleason, are you punched in right now? Okay. So, gentlemen, do you want to ask Mr. Constantine any questions, or you have any input for now? Okay, Mr. Constantine, thank you so much. 12 new deaths, what time period does that cover?
Madam Chair, I don't readily have it in front of me. It does encompass usually at least a couple weeks because oftentimes the coroner's office is involved. Every death requires an attestation from a doctor, which requires a review, and then they have to fill out all of the causes of death. That takes time. The coroner's office is involved in most cases, so that takes time. So it is spread across a number of days. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how do you feel about our death rate, Matt? Or do we anticipate that it will continue to rise? How do you feel about that?
So, we have been very carefully tracking cases, and we see some wild swings in the number of cases in Kern. And unfortunately, we have seen some significant variety in the number of deaths per day. So it has not stabilized. We have seen a reduction in testing demand since early July, and we believe our numbers will eventually stabilize. We're trying to, we had to get through the lab testing delays, then we had to get through the state's database delays. We're hopeful in the near future this will start to stabilize a little better, but deaths are harder to actually predict. Again, we focus on our ICU capacity and where that stands. That still, the hospitals are still full, they're still busy. So we're concerned that the cases will continue to rise as the model predicted. And that's just another call to action for us to remember that we need to continue the efforts and, in fact, do even more so that those hospitals remain healthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Constantine. I really appreciate your hard work and expertise. I want to say that I got chills a moment ago when you indicated that we had no existing orders. A few weeks ago when we heard that there were 20 orders waiting of people, our neighbors, in this community, it was quite chilling to think about the fact that that deficit was in place. I really, really have to give a heartwarm thank you and express gratitude to Supervisor Maggard for his leadership and asking this board to step up and promote the helping of our neighbors through this process. It is clearly turning into a success very quickly, and that feels good. And I want to thank you, Supervisor Maggard. Your leadership on this issue is stellar. And I know you have some information to provide to the board too, but thank you. Hats off to you and our joint efforts to help the community understand how we can best help each other during these times. So, Supervisor Maggard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everything is a team effort. The whole county family is engaged in this together. So thank you to all of you. I'm thrilled with that as well. So thank you to everybody who's helped with that. I don't have a report about our task force this morning. We'll have more next week when we have a report on the skilled nursing facilities, and later we're going to have a conversation about the CARES money being used for nonprofits. So I'll let that come up when it comes on the agenda. But I wanted to take a moment to recognize someone from the 3rd District. Periodically, we recognize in the 3rd District what we call neighborhood heroes, and those are people that do extraordinary things to help our community. And it's important from time to time to single out people who go to extraordinary lengths to help. So this morning I would like to, in the world we're in today, you can't have them stand here before us, and I can't go down and shake their hand and ask you to applaud their efforts. So the next best thing I can do today is to present here, and then I will send to his residence a certificate of recognition to Jeff Copeland in recognition of being a District 3 neighborhood hero and for extraordinary efforts to keep the community of Wailedale clean, and for the exemplary public service and civic contributions to the community in Kern County presented the 13th day of July. This is the day that we approved it, but I'm presenting it today. Signed by all 5 members of the board. Mr. Copeland is growing in recognition throughout our community for being someone who, at his own expense, on his own, completely by himself, travels around in his truck with his array of tools and paint and brooms and whatever else he uses to clean up vast quantities of refuse and just messes around our community, particularly in OLL. So he's a great guy, has a wonderful commitment to our community, and I wanted him to know that our entire community is grateful for his efforts. So, Mr. Copeland, you are a community neighborhood hero, and I will make sure you get the certificate. So God bless you in your efforts. Stay safe out there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other questions on board member announcements? Oh, excuse me, Mick, I know you had an announcement.
Real quick, thank you, Madam Chair. Had the opportunity last week to tour the Stagecoach Fire with the chief and his team, and I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. Remarkable experience watching our firefighters in work and how they managed a looming catastrophe and brought it to its knees. These guys are the best. Once again, after the Erskine fire, I was completely convinced our fire department's unbelievable. After this fire, the same thing goes. I mean, this is extremely rugged terrain, an extremely difficult and uncontrolled fire that was brought to its knees by a team of professionals under a unified command. The way they set up their organization, the way they manage their resources in a crisis situation is remarkable. But what's notable to me, and I think what I want you to be noticed about this also, is the fact that there was, I think it was plus 95 plus degrees, 100 degrees, whatever it was, really hot, way out in the between Tehachapi and Kern River Valley in that very rugged outback. These guys would battle in the fire. They would sleep during the day under a tree, whatever they could find. They did a stellar job. My hat's off to them. As we were coming down off the mountain and we're driving out, we listened to the radio calls, and another fire was brewing on the south side of the county. And so these guys were picking up after hardly getting any sleep and jumping in their rigs and heading south, put out the next emergency. So it's a remarkable feat. We have a great fire department. I know we've had some challenges between the board and the fire department recently about issues, but it has never been a doubt that this board completely supports our firefighters and what they do and who they are and how they perform. So, Chief, I salute you and I salute your team. If you wanted to come down, I don't know if you want to come down or not, to say something real quick to brag about your team, I certainly would like to hear it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mick. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for the comments, Supervisor Gleason. We appreciate the support, as well as Supervisor Scrivener, for all the conversations that we've had and looking at the fire and talking about the fire and the concern. We unfortunately we lost a few structures, but we saved a lot of structures, and I can't express enough how proud I am of our fire department, as well as the federal government, state government. We had 100 people on the fire. There were over 1,000 people that fought this fire, and just did a phenomenal job, and we appreciate the support and the encouragement, so thank you.
How's that guy from Bishop, was it with the firefighter that lost his life?
Yes, Pete Hain, retired CAL FIRE captain, while working a support role in the Stagecoach Incident Command Post, had an acute medical emergency and passed away due to complications while assigned to the fire. So we, wish him and his family all the best, and we're saddened by the loss.
Great job, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gleason, is that very good? Okay, gentlemen, not seeing further items of discussion under this agenda item, we're going to move on under our CAO to item number 16, a request for authorization to purchase personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, and proposed sole source agreement with Community Action Partnership of Kern, also known as CAPK, for distribution of PPE to at-risk persons in Kern County in response to COVID-19 public health emergency from August 18, 2020 to December 30, 2020, in an amount not to exceed $25,000. Mr. Zervis, good morning. Appreciate all your hard work around the clock. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors. This is This is the first of two coronavirus relief items that are coming before your board today. And although this is a fairly small dollar amount in the grand scheme of the $157 million that the county's been awarded, we feel it's an important one, and it's an important one for your board to be aware of. So this effort would allocate $500,000 of the coronavirus relief funds. Those are currently, of the $10 million, which is currently unallocated. This would utilize $500,000 of that, really in an effort to provide face masks and possibly other PPE items to some of the neediest in the county. And the best way to reach those people effectively and efficiently, we believe, is utilizing a partnership with CAPK, so the Community Action Partnership of Kern. CAPK operates a number of programs designed to reach people throughout Kern County and support them with food banks, youth centers, senior centers, nutrition programs, Head Start, Healthy Families, all of these types of programs that meet this demographic. And in this plan would approve a contract with CAPK. The county would utilize $475,000 to purchase on a competitive basis face masks, utilizing our competitive bidding process, ship those to CAPK's warehouse in Bakersfield, and CAPK would then distribute them to all of their programs, or the programs which are participating, which are currently identified as 23 different locations throughout Kern County, where they would be given to people in the community. So primarily participants in the program, when they're checking out from a food bank, or they're at a WIC store, or that they're at a Head Start, hey, here's a box of masks, in order to try to get these masks out into the community at all levels. So that is the program. CAPK's been great about their eagerness to partner with us in this, and it supplements their existing programs really well. We have allocated under the contract up to $25,000 simply to cover their out-of-pocket costs that they may incur in delivering this. They're not charging us staff time or overhead or anything else. This is simply if they have to rent a van, if they incur other costs directly involved in delivering this program, we have the ability to reimburse them for those costs. So really a great partnership, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this proposed program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Service. Colleagues, do you have any questions about this matter? I absolutely trust CAPK. They do a wonderful job. I really appreciate the seemingly increasing sophistication of our relationship with them. It really demonstrates, I think, our commitment to working with the finest in this community to deliver results that the taxpayer really demands. So I just so appreciate it. Thank you. And this sounds like an excellent project. Do we have any input from the public, Ms. Kraus?
Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment on this item.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Service. We have a motion and a second. Gentlemen, please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Service. Moving right along to the next item is item number 17, also under CAO, and that's a request for authorization to establish a nonprofit COVID-19 economic support grant program and authorization to allocate additional funds to increase capacity at local hospitals' intensive care units.
Madam Clerk, excuse me, Madam Chair. I'm going to recuse myself on this item. This is an amendment to a previous agreement that we made because of my wife's employment with Adventist Health. I recuse myself on that item, and since this is an amendment, I'm going to recuse myself on this as well. Thank you.
We'll see you in a few moments. Thank you, Zach. Mr. Service, this item is yours, I take it. The floor is yours.
It is. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm going to take the second part of this first, and that is the amendment to the agreement with Right Sourcing, Inc. to provide nursing for ICU staff nursing, rather. In a prior action by the board, your board approved an agreement with Right Sourcing that would provide staffing to staff an additional 40 ICU beds at local hospitals. After those agreements were inked, Good Samaritan Hospital reached out to the county and requested that they also be included to participate in this program. And based on the size of their hospital and ICU capacity, this would add another 2 beds to the 40 that were already approved. So this would provide staffing for those additional 2 beds for the period of time through December 30th, 2020. So that is the $600,000 amendment to the right sourcing agreement. And it would provide, again, staffing for 2 additional ICU beds for the remainder of this calendar year. The other item under this board letter is a nonprofit grant program under the Kern Recovers marketing effort in order to bring additional financial support to our nonprofit sector. So the county has just wrapped up its $30 million Kern Small Business Relief Program, and we were able to put $30 million out there in about 60 days to the for-profit and some nonprofit sectors through that program. However, there are certainly some parts of our nonprofit community that play an important role in our economy, but for a variety of reasons really didn't fit into the model for either the federal PPP program or the Kern Recovers Small Business Relief Program. Some of those, as an example, are the fact that they utilize a lot of volunteer labor, and both of those programs previously mentioned utilized payroll calculations in order to qualify for dollar amounts for financial assistance. Some of these nonprofits don't have the banking relationships or professional staff on board needed to manage both the reporting and application processes for those programs. And in some cases, you have nonprofits that have more revenue than would qualify for the Kern Small Business Relief Program, but a lot of that is passed through, and it's just spent directly providing services to the public, and their actual organization really does fit more in the box of a small business, even though their revenue may put them out of the qualification, the $5 million maximum for small businesses in Kern County. Additionally, in our small business relief program, we did allow nonprofits to participate, but only certain types of nonprofits. There were certain specific 501c designations that were included, and that excluded some. And so this program is really targeted to address those issues and try to bring some financial assistance to our nonprofit sectors within Kern County, and in a way that avoids the issues that held them back from the federal PPP program and the Small Business Relief Program. So the proposed program would provide grants in amount of $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. We're recommending a program funding a total $1 million for this program, and that would come from that $10 million of coronavirus relief funds that currently has been not allocated. So it would come from that same pot of money that the $500,000 that we just talked about with the face mask program. To give you a description of what the intent of this program is, it is a grant program that would provide economic support to Kern County nonprofit entities who are financially impacted by COVID-19 that are focused on addressing the needs of the neediest in our society or improving the quality of life in Kern County, and funding must be necessary due to the financial impacts of COVID-19 and be used to mitigate those impacts. So we're looking at those nonprofits that are local, meaning that they're headquartered in Kern County and they're providing direct services or goods to Kern County or benefiting the quality of life in Kern County. So again, the total program allocation would be $1 million with individual grants of $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. And that would be based on a number of factors, so that the category in which a business gets awarded would be based on employee count, 2019 revenues, both intended to give us a feeling for the size of the organization, demonstrated revenue losses, so actual decreases in revenue between the period impacted by COVID-19 in 2020, or 2019 rather, and then what, or 2020, and then compared to the same quarter in the prior year. And then any demonstrated extraordinary costs. So if they have specific costs they've incurred related to COVID, we want to know that and be able to factor that in. The eligibility for this program is listed as following. So these businesses must adequately demonstrate that funding is necessary due to the financial impacts of COVID-19 and would be utilized to mitigate those impacts. That's a requirement of the coronavirus relief funds and the CARES Act. So that is why that is restated in our eligibility criteria. They need to be a legally organized nonprofit entity, so a 501 type entity within the IRS code. They must be actively registered to do business with the Secretary of State. They must be physically headquartered in Kern County as documented with the IRS or Secretary of State. And they must primarily serve the constituents of Kern County. So we are looking for those that are active in meeting the needs of Kern County. They must directly provide a service or good or available, rather provide a service or good available to or benefiting the general public. And they cannot have received funding under the Kern Recovers Kern Small Business Relief Program. So we're not going to fund both. They can have received funding under the federal PPP program, but we are excluding them if they've already received funding from the county in our previous program. Additionally, nonprofits eligible for this program cannot be a government or a quasi-government entity. They can't be a social, recreational, sports, or a booster club. The funds can't be used for any inherently religious purpose. They cannot be engaged exclusively for lobbying. They can't be a private foundation or just be a pass-through entity that's primarily engaged in just distributing funds to other folks. So we are trying to target those nonprofits that are active, that are local nonprofits, that are active within our community in meeting the needs of our community and serving the residents of Kern County. I'll stop there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about either either of these topics. So.
Okay. Okay, Supervisor Couch. Thank you, Mr. Service.
Thank you. I agree with the part about the lobbying and all that. Where do you draw the line, I guess? Because I'll pick one out of the.
Is your mic on?
Better?
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll pick a nonprofit out of the year, the Boys and Girls Club, let's say, or even the, let's stick with that. If they come to the board, a board member, and requests something, is that lobbying? I mean, I'm curious where we're going to draw the line.
Yeah, so that we talked about this a lot, and there are some federal provisions within the CARES Act that require that our funding not be used for lobbying. So we'll have a statement in the actual funding agreement that says they can't use it for lobbying. But in addition to that, the language we've used in our program guidelines says exclusively. So if the agency is exclusive in what they do, is all they do is lobby for particular interests, then we would say, no, that doesn't meet our eligibility criteria. Boys and Girls Club say they do, I mean, most nonprofits do some form of lobbying, formal, informal, at maybe a low level. That's not an issue. So we are saying exclusively.
I would be careful with this, because I think if they're lobbying, and I'm using that term rather loosely, for their benefit, essentially, I think that's one thing. If they're politically active, campaign contributions or working on campaigns, I think that's a whole other issue entirely, and I don't think we should be funding that. I don't know how you thread the needle on that, but I think that's something that we need to be careful of. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Sounds to me like you've given it a lot of thought, Mr. Service, and sounds like you would not be funding organizations you believed were behaving inappropriately.
That's correct, Madam Chair. It is difficult, to Supervisor Couch's point, in threading that needle in how you delineate these nonprofits, as far as their activity in either supporting candidates or lobbying for their members or the causes that they're active in trying to address through their nonprofit activities. So, we've said exclusively. I think if we took a hard line to say, well, no lobbying would be acceptable, it would exclude a lot of folks like, and I'll just use the Boys and Girls Club because that was the example given. They may be excluded when I think the intent of our program would be to fund a Boys and Girls Club. They meet a need and provide a service in our community. So we'll do our best to try to work with the federal language there. But as far as individual campaign contributions, the way the program guidelines are drafted currently, it would not exclude an organization that has made campaign contributions. If that's a requirement that your board would like to see in the eligibility criteria, we can add that. But I think there might be some unintended folks getting excluded because of a rule like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would, unfortunately. But it's a good reminder, a good lesson, and I trust that you're monitoring that process to keep us free from those kind of entanglements, which don't help any of us, of course.
Yeah.
So thank you. Any other questions, concerns, colleagues? Okay, Mr. Zervis, thank you. Do we have public input on this matter?
We have no public comment on this item.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Zervis. Colleagues, then I'll entertain a motion if you are prepared to proceed.
Are we waiting for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make that.
Thank you. Mick. Sure, Supervisor Couch.
Apparently, two of us have a reluctance to make a second on this, and I don't want to put you, Supervisor Maggard, on the spot, but do you have the same reluctance with what I just mentioned? Is there any discussion that we should have about that?
Madam Chair, may I respond?
Please. Oh, yes, of course, Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you. I don't think it's appropriate to use the government's money, the people's money, to fund organizations that are politically active and advocate a specific cause for or against the benefit of others in the community. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I'm not comfortable with that aspect of this. There are many, many nonprofits who could benefit from, and I'm very interested in helping them. But I have concern about these funds being used for the benefit of some and to the detriment of others because of the political agenda of organizations. I've asked many questions about this before this came onto our agenda, and I still don't know what the answer is. So that's why I am holding back and not comfortable yet.
Supervisor Couch?
Well, I would just state that I am, Mrs. Zervis, we may need you. Can we get you back up to the microphone? Can you help us navigate that? What I'm interested in is making sure that the nonprofits that go about their business daily of food distribution or education or whatever it is, that have no political agenda whatsoever, are able to apply for funding. But those that may be involved in many activities, some of which are political, some of which are not, with money's fungible, and I don't know how we guarantee that some grant that they receive doesn't go for a political purpose. And I don't think we can actually do that if they're engaged in political activities of some kind. So I don't know how to do it. I'm looking for your help.
Yeah, so I'd make a couple suggestions. First, we can make it explicit in our grant agreement, and you're right, that funding can't be used for lobbying purposes. So I think we can be very explicit in our grant document that says the funding that's provided can't be used for those purposes. And we can work with county council to do that. That doesn't, however, take away from what they're using their other funding for, and you're still funding an organization that may be more politically active than service-oriented, and I think that's the concern that I'm hearing.
It is.
And we can, anyway. and we can modify the guidelines to reflect that desire from the board that they have to, these entities have to be primarily engaged in providing a good or service to the community. And that was the language that's currently in the eligibility criteria. But we can strengthen that to make it clear that, groups that are primarily engaged in political, I wouldn't say campaigning, but lobbying and those activities of that sort can be excluded. I would also add that we would be happy to go through the process. It's my intent if this project is approved, that we would open it up, receive grant applications, review them internally, and rate them and provide a recommendation. We could certainly bring that final list back to your board for approval before any money is awarded officially to any organization, and give your board another opportunity to review that list before those awards are made.
I guess that would satisfy, and I appreciate that. That would satisfy what any reluctance that I have.
Gives us an effort to first cut at that list to try to make sure, and then gives you another opportunity to review for the same concern.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Zervis, for that offer. Supervisor Maggard?
With all due respect, Mr. Zervis, I think bringing a list to the Board of Supervisors for us to deliberate and decide who gets and who does not get money because they may or may not have political agendas is explicitly political.
That's true.
It will subject all of those organizations to scrutiny that they probably don't want. It will put us in a position of choosing who fits into. Excuse me, did I not turn on my microphone? Do I need to back up and say that again for the record, Madam Clerk? Yes. Okay, thank you. With all due respect, Mr. Zervis, bringing a list to this board, a political body, to decide which ones are or are not political makes the entire process political and subject to claims that either we are rewarding those that fit within our political paradigm or we are punishing those that do not. And I think that is exactly what the problem is with this. If organizations are, by their charter, advocating a political cause, I don't think it's appropriate for them to get money for this purpose. If they are feeding the poor, if they are looking out for our children, if they are housing the homeless, if they are helping those with special needs, there's a myriad of things that can be involved. And frankly, I don't care if they're religious in their efforts. If they're doing that kind of work, I'm completely comfortable with them being assisted by us. And there are many organizations that are struggling and may not survive because their fundraisers are not able to be held right now. I completely feel for that. But if there is a political element to it, that means some are not going to get money. I just happen to be of the mindset that it's more appropriate to avoid those that have a political agenda and benefit those who do not.
Supervisor Couch.
Supervisor Alsop, excuse me. Mr.
Sorry.
Alsop.
There's a demotion for you.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm trying to find a way here to, we hear you. This is something that is not, what you're talking about was not lost on us. And in developing this program, we believe that we were carefully controlling for those types of situations. Your board could your board could decide to continue this until the 25th. Now that we're working to add something onto the 25th, we're happy to put this on the 25th. And bring back some revisions to this that demonstrate to you and give you the confidence that we are not going to have these problems that you are raising today. And if Mr. Zervis doesn't see a problem with that, or unless he has some better idea at this moment to convince you otherwise, those are my comments on this.
May I jump in one more time? Thank you. I would suggest if we're going to follow that course, that we proceed with approving the authorization for the $600,000 for Good Sam and their contract through Right Sourcing, because that will not only allow that good effort to proceed, but I believe will free up the potential conflict that Supervisor Scrivener is subject to, that will allow him to enter into the conversation when we have a conversation about this, if we resolve the nursing staffing issue. So if my colleagues, there's already a motion on the floor, I'm not going to try to replace that. So if we're going to proceed in that direction, I think there's some benefit in splitting them apart.
Mr. Zervis, I want to make some comments. I want to thank you for your work here and your creativity. In my 8 years on this board, I've never seen a colleague express a concern about something, A, that hasn't happened yet, and two, that is clear to be a problem in this community. So I'm not even sure what we're talking about here, what problems we're trying to avoid. They seem speculative, they seem premature, and it can only lead me to believe that in and of itself is very political, as you can imagine, because many groups in this community get absolutely zero scrutiny whatsoever to maintain political positions that, of course, are consistent with the dominant culture of Kern County. But you can see what's happening here and the problems associated with this particular item. I think the item to me seems totally legitimate, seems we should move forward on it, and that you have the judgment and ability to determine if groups are out there trying to take taxpayer dollars and do some nefarious conduct with it or be political. I'm unaware of that. I would love to know if it's happening. It's the kind of thing that is fundamentally un-American and inappropriate. But while we're sitting here making allegations against certain groups and their political conduct when we don't know who they are, I'd like to know who those groups are that we're so concerned about. Because in 8 years of handing out money to nonprofits, I've never heard such a concern before, which makes me believe that it is fundamentally political, which is not something that I have a lot of authority to do anything about. So you're stuck in a tough situation, of course, trying to predict the behavior of nonprofits or their potential political activity before it has occurred. I'm not sure how you're supposed to do that exactly, but you're certainly in a tough position. I don't envy you. How are you feeling about things at this point?
No, I appreciate the feedback, and we can certainly bring it back on the 25th, and I appreciate Supervisor Maggard's comment on splitting the action here today, because that would be helpful for several reasons. I would point out that the area that we recognize the concern here and tried to address it in the eligibility criteria when we say that that to be eligible, you must directly provide a service or good available to or benefiting the general public, meaning it's not an exclusive group that you're benefiting, that it's targeted for the general public, and that you must provide a good or a service. So I would say if you prefer us to come back, we will focus on strengthening that language to show that these organizations would have to be active in primarily provide a good or service as a part of their organization, to try to separate between maybe nonprofits that focus more on political influence as opposed to meeting the needs of the community. It's the latter that we are trying to target with this program.
Well, maybe you need a list of nonprofits that supervisors would like you to exclude. Maybe that'll help you. That would be some more clear direction. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see how that develops.
Madam Chair, may I comment again?
Please, Supervisor Mack.
Thank you. I think I don't know how comments come across or don't come across, but there might be some misunderstanding here. I do not want you to come back to us and say, supervisors, would you like to fund this group, and would you like not to fund that group? I don't want to be in that position. When we establish the parameters, it should proceed, and we shouldn't pick and choose, because I think that's arbitrary, and I don't want to be subject to that criticism. It occurs to me that we have already funded organizations that sometimes make political contributions, and if that's the case, then I don't think it's necessarily fair that we preclude now an organization that makes a political contribution. I do think it's appropriate for us to be careful to specify that these funds cannot be used for a political purpose or an endorsement or a contribution. In thinking about this, I think that makes me more comfortable with the prospect of making a donation that's used for their charitable activity and not for their lobbying activity, because it would be very inconsistent of us to have already made CARES Act small business loans to organizations that do make endorsements, even though we don't want them to make endorsements with the money we gave them, and now preclude someone because they may do the same. So I think we should be consistent in how we do it. So as I'm thinking about this out loud here, I guess we're making political sausage in public, and it's not very, very clean when we do that. Very pretty way to do it. But to be consistent with how we've done it with other organizations, I think I'm okay with proceeding with this as long as there is language that specifies that it shall not be used for political lobbying, endorsement, or campaign contributions. What do you think of that,
Madam
Mr.
Chair, if I may
Zervis?
respond to...
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. Mr. Zervis.
Thank you. Supervisor Maggard, through the chair, that's a requirement under the federal regulations for the CARES Act funding, that it cannot be used for lobbying. We will make very certain that that's explicit in the grant documents and our application, that it's very clear that it can't be used for any of those lobbying or political activities. Additionally, we can strengthen the language in the grant document to say that these must be used to, we're already saying that they have to be used to mitigate the financial impacts of COVID-19. And we can take that a step further to say they must be used to further your organization's delivery of the goods or services to the public, and we can get that language a little tighter. Supervisor Maggard brings up a good point. The Kern Small Business Relief Program funded almost 1,000 businesses with $30 million, many of which have some political bent or influence or lobbying or contributions. We don't know. We didn't ask, frankly. Now, it was explicit that they couldn't use the money for those purposes because that's how that program was set up. They could use it only for very narrow allowed purposes. But to Supervisor Maggard's point, no one was excluded because of their political leaning or contributions or activity through that program.
Thank you, Mr. Zervis. Supervisor Couch?
Is there still a motion on the floor?
There is. It's
Okay.
Supervisor Gleason.
Then I won't jump in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor.
Madam Chair, I would second the motion then with the caveat that the language be explicit about the use of funds not being used for political, Mr. Zervis, you insert the language that's appropriate under the federal guidelines. And in consideration of that and in consideration of the organizations we've already funded, I think we let the chips fall where they may here, and we try to do a lot of good for a lot of nonprofit organizations and hope that it's used for those good purposes.
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard.
So it's a second for both expenditures.
Thank you so much. We have a motion. We have a second. Supervisor Couch, did you want to weigh in again, or are you done?
Yeah, I'm just going to say I'm supportive because.
Your mic's off.
Sorry. I'm supportive because I want to help our nonprofits. I just had the concern, which frankly I've had personal experience with. So many comments were made up here today over the years with exactly what my concern was. Not necessarily always directed at me, but in many different directions. So I know it does exist, and I just wanted to make sure that we were doing the best we could do with our taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Supervisor Couch. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 abstention. Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you very much. I know Zach will be joining us again. Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 21, which is a proposed retroactive approval of funding for subcontracted adult, dislocated worker, and combined programs and services under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act from July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021 in an amount not to exceed $1,277,993. That's a little easier. Okay. And this item is under Employers Training Resource. I see Ms. Hitchcock is present and queued up. The floor is yours. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The item before you is a request for approval of funding recommendations for adult dislocated worker and combined programs and services under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act for program year 2020-2021. This item originally was presented to your board on July 14th, 2020. MAOF was the only appeal to the funding recommendations. At that meeting, your board directed ETR to work with MAOF to see if there was an alternate resolution to the original funding recommendation, which was to fund MAOF $160,000 for 6 months and then have MAOF convert to the individual training account funding model that is currently used for all other training providers except MAOF and Proteus. At this time, I'd like to present your board with some information about both ETR and MAOF and some of the efforts that have been ongoing since 2017, just to give some background. So as you're aware, Employers Training Resource is wholly funded through outside grant funding, predominantly from the federal government through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, commonly known as WIOA. WIOA legislation requires the board of directors to oversee the funding that is 51% business-led in order to ensure that the funding investments made within the local area align with the actual needs of business. The core purpose of our funding is to link people with training opportunities that will raise their standard of living. It is a business-led system, but individuals coming in for training are able to choose which training aligns with their skills, interests, and abilities. All training applicants go through a screening process to ensure that they can be successful in the training that they choose. Since we are federally funded, we do have performance metrics that we must meet every year in order to continue to receive funding. I want to just go over some of the metrics and our organization's performance for the past 3 years. ETR is measured on 5 primary metrics: credential attainment, employment second quarter after exiting our program, employment fourth quarter after exiting our program, median earnings, and measurable skills gain. I didn't include measurable skills gain on this chart because it is a new metric in the regulations and we don't have performance data as of yet. The first column is the goal set by the state. The second column is our actual performance, and the third column indicates the percentage over or under the original goal. As you can see, ETR has exceeded the goals set by the state on every metric. Also note that each year the goals have increased in every category. These are our adult numbers. I will briefly present both our dislocated worker and our youth numbers. Again, you can see the goals are increased every year for dislocated workers, and we've also surpassed every metric set by the state. These are the goals for youth. Median earnings is a new metric for youth, so we don't have data to share on that metric yet. Again, ETR has exceeded every metric for which we have data for the past 3 years. Our performance is largely due to 2 very important factors. Number 1 is I have a very engaged workforce development board that is very active in the decision-making process to ensure that they are making the best training investments for our community. Number 2, I have an incredible staff that strives for excellence every day and are very involved with the clients that they serve. In addition to the basic metrics, ETR is also required to expend 30% of the dollars we receive on direct training for participants. Training can either take place in a classroom or we can subsidize wages and employers can train employees on the job. This chart shows a correlation between declining unemployment rates and increasing on-the-job training, or OJT as we commonly refer to it. The benefit to OJT training is that participants are guaranteed a job at the end of training. You can see by this chart that when labor markets get tighter, OJT training becomes an important tool to fulfill the needs of employers. We expect that as we start to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, that we may see an increased demand for classroom training due to higher than normal unemployment rates. We recognize that not all of our participants need the same training. In order to ensure that we have training to meet a variety of needs within the community, our classroom training choices have increased by more than 93% over the past 10 years, and we expect to continue adding programs. As a matter of fact, we are considering partnering with LinkedIn Learning on a grant to add a number of online certificate programs. Most classroom training is offered through individual training account model. Although, as you are aware, we have funded both MAOF and Proteus as contract training providers. Our ITA training providers include the Kern Community College District, California State University Bakersfield, Saracoso, Taft College, Bakersfield Adult School, West Tech, and many others. We have, as you can see, 23 training providers providing 230 programs. MAOF has historically offered contract training in two areas, clerical and bookkeeping. I'm going to present some data for both of these programs. First, the clerical program. This chart shows funding provided under the contract training model versus training participants in the program. The contract training model requires that we pay for a designated number of training slots within the training program, regardless of whether any of our clients choose the program. Remember, under our current regulations, it is client choice. At this point, we are in discussion with the state regarding MAOF's clerical program. The program was recently removed from the eligible training provider list for not meeting the state's requirements as leading to an industry-recognized credential. Remember, that's one of our performance metrics. The state at this point has taken the position that we could designate this program as a local provider, but that we would need a funding source other than WIOA to pay for the training. We don't have another funding source at this time to fund this training. The average cost per participant for this program in 2019-20 was approximately $27,777. The average training-related placement for this program over the past 10 years was 42.51%. The bookkeeping program is currently still on the eligible training provider list, although it was almost removed for not meeting the state's training-related placement metrics. The state requires training programs to place at least 70% of training participants in a job related to the training that they received. MAOF's 10-year average for this program is 37.88%. Although this past year, MAOF had a training-related placement for the bookkeeping program of around 72%. The per participant cost for this program last year was approximately $25,000. For comparison, we generally pay $10,000 or less per participant under an individual training account. There's been a lot of discussion regarding marketing in order to increase enrollments in MAOF's programs. Since 2017, ETR has run specific targeted marketing to try to find candidates interested in participating in MAOF's programs. On this slide are flyers for both the bookkeeping and administrative assistant programs designed and distributed by the ETR team on behalf of MAOF. On the left is a flyer for an event that my team helped coordinate for MAOF to try to drive more interest in MAOF's programs. On the right is a social media posting on our AJCC Facebook page that was done to promote this event. This is an ad that was created for MAOF by my staff to place with GetBus. We've also promoted MAOF's programs on our regular media appearances. This is an example of one of those promotions that was done on our Putting You to Work Wednesday segment on KBAK and Fox 58, which we do every week. These are radio scripts that were run to promote training programs. As you can see, both bookkeeping and clerical were included in these ads. In addition, we regularly run TV commercials and cinema screen ads when the cinemas are open. Obviously, they're not right now, to promote training opportunities through our program throughout the entire county. That concludes my overview, and I will now make a brief presentation on the item before you on today's agenda. Since the Board of Supervisors meeting of July 14th, 2020, ETR has met twice with MAOF to discuss options. The Workforce Development Board's recommended option is to include another performance enrollment metric in the proposed 6-month agreement. Should MAOF's bookkeeping class not reach the stated enrollment level by December 31st, 2020, then the contract will end on December 31st, 2020. If, however, the metric is met, that would trigger an extension for another 6 months with additional funding. In addition, ETR has committed to do more outreach for the training programs. As a matter of fact, we have a radio spot already created and ready to run as soon as we have a contract with MAOF. And we plan to use this method to promote all training programs, as we believe that classroom training will be in higher demand as we see higher unemployment after the COVID-19 pandemic. It should be noted, as discussed in my presentation, that the MAOF clerical program has recently been removed from the state's eligible training provider list. As a result, ETR is not authorized to spend WIOA dollars on this training. ETR has offered technical assistance to MAOF, and the agency will need to provide additional information to the state on the issue of industry-recognized credential in order to be reinstated. Another avenue to diversify MAOF's funding stream that was discussed was to expand MAOF's participation in the Department of Human Services Calworks Paid Work Experience Program. This expansion includes service to East Kern County that is currently operated by another provider of these services. Under this grant, ETR, MAOF, and the Department of Human Services have agreed, and MAOF will be receiving an additional $40,540 to serve East Kern. The total agreement between ETR and MAOF for this program at that point will be $1,914,747. Therefore, it is recommended that your board approve the proposed retroactive distribution of WIOA funding for program year 2020-2021 as outlined in the table on page 2 in an amount not to exceed $1,277,993, with the addition of metrics in both the MAOF and Proteus agreements that, if met, would trigger funding through June 30th, 2021. If the performance metrics are not met, then the programs would convert to the ITA model. In addition, we are requesting authorization for the Assistant County Administrative Officer directing WIOA programs to sign the agreements and any subsequent amendments which have been approved by County Council as to form on behalf of the county. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any of my colleagues punched in, so I'm going to ask Kathy if we have testimony, live testimony that we should receive at this time.
We do have live testimony. We also have received one email. I'll go ahead and read that. This is from Michael Turnipseed, Kern County Taxpayers Association. Chair Perez and members of the board, for over 4 decades, the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation has labored to deliver job training services to our most underserved and underrepresented residents of our community. With the vast amount of unskilled workers with very limited educations in our county, your board must take every opportunity to reach out to those that have been left behind in our changing economy and make every effort to provide the helping hand needed for them to become self-sufficient. Now we have 7 speakers ready to address your board. I'm going to start with Magda Menendez. Ms. Menendez, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, feel free to address the board.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Again, I'm Magda Menendez. Am I getting verb? Okay. Again, I'm Magda Menendez with Cisneros. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up pretty bad.
What can I do about that?
It's better now. Just make sure that if you are listening or watching the meeting, that you turn down the volume on any other device so that the only volume that we will hear is your voice to us.
Okay, I've done that. Okay. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to once again share with you our services and demonstrate effectiveness in meeting the employment and training needs of the residents of Kern County. As you know, the last time we were here, we were asked by your board to meet with our funding source, Employers Training Resource, to try and resolve our differences in the funding recommendation. We have met twice, and in the packet provided to you this morning, we share a recap of our meetings. Just as a reminder, we would like to first address some of the concerns and questions that were raised by your board regarding ETR's funding recommendations at our last meeting. I will begin with the concerns expressed by Supervisor Scrivener. Supervisor expressed concern with that matrix force supplements by ETR had been approved and voted by your board a year ago, July 2019. The decision has been made, and this was a result of that. He stated your board is being asked to pause because a certain organization is not satisfied with how the performance-based model is affecting their funding. Supervisor Scrivener said he was happy to have a broader conversation about this, but wanted to be clear that it had already been approved. We very much appreciate Supervisor's willingness to listen. People not listening to our concerns has been a major source of frustration for us. When the matrix of having 40 persons enrolled in each of our 2 programs by March of this year was first proposed to the Workforce Board by ETR, given the history of the low referrals to training from ETR to MAOF, unless there was a strategic recruitment campaign, we were concerned the ability to reach this goal to be questionable. MAOF provided public comment to the Program and Business Services Committee in opposition to the matrix. This committee voted to recommend the matrix to the full Workforce Development Board. MAOF then prepared its presentation to the full Workforce Development Board. On the morning of the meeting at the full board, the president of the board announced at the beginning of the meeting that they were implementing a 3-minute time limit on all public comment for matters on the agenda. This was unprecedented. I would challenge the Workforce Development Board and ETR to produce minutes showing a time in its history of existence, a time they had implemented a 3-minute public comment policy. Time limits on public comment are not to be taken lightly. Indeed, we understand placing a time limit on public comment is necessary when a large group of people want to speak on an agenda item. But the Workforce Development Board and ETR will confirm the persons who usually attend these meetings are by and large the board members, ETR staff members, and staff members of the agencies around the board. This was nothing short of a low-blow legal bureaucratic move on the part of ETR and the Workforce Board to prevent MAOF from presenting the information we felt necessary for the full Workforce Board to hear in order for them to make an informed decision. MAOF was forced to rapidly eliminate information and rush to its presentation to accommodate the 3-minute time limit. We did go over the time limit by a couple of minutes, but the tone was set among the board members. There was very little dialogue, and ETR's recommendation of the matrix was approved. MAOF then filed an appeal to the Executive Board of the Workforce Development Board, which was also denied. MAOF contemplated coming to your board. In years past, it has been normal for the contracts to come to your board for a retro, usually a couple of months after the fiscal year has started. Not this time. It was up for a vote as a consent agenda item by the middle of July, we believe around July 19th. Not only were we surprised at how rapidly the funding recommendations were brought to your board, but we were also surprised our contract came up as a consent agenda item. Supposedly, consent agenda items are considered non-controversial and routine by staff. We don't understand how this item could have been considered non-controversial with ETR staff knowing all of our efforts in trying to prevent the matrix from being implemented. There were 2 reasons that MAF did not come to the Board of Supervisors to plead our case. One is, given how complex this legislation is, we had a small window of time to prepare. Second, this was just after the earthquake in Ridgecrest, and we as a county were focused on services to people of the area as well as the recovery. It just didn't feel right at the time. No one, of course, ever imagined the very next year we'd be dealing with a pandemic. We instead decided to work hard to learn marketing and recruitment, as well as work to get people to understand our position with the hope of changing the matrix. Supervisor Maggard shared he had concerns, and there have been issues for a while. Supervisor Maggard is correct. There have been issues for the last 4 years. In fact, over the years, I've met with Supervisor's Chief of Staff at various times seeking guidance. Supervisor Maggard also stated there were metrics to be met and there were consequences if they were not met. MAF very well understands the importance of program goals and objectives. If we didn't, we would not have been in existence for close to 60 years, and through the variety of services we offer to be able to provide services throughout the state of California to over 100,000 Californians yearly. MAOF, by and large, has met its goals in its service to the citizens of Kern County for over 40 years. We have a well-developed niche in serving persons from targeted populations, which include the long-term unemployed, the formerly incarcerated, those with low educational attainment, and those seeking to transition from public assistance. What we do insist on, however, is that the goals and objectives be realistic and not be designed to set us up for failure. Setting us up for failure is exactly what the Matrix ETR maneuvered through the system did. Supervisor Maggard typically stated, the reality of it is how to use dollars wisely. He further stated he would like from staff and MAF a very clear plan as to how this will change. He asked, does MAF as an organization need to change? Does the way they deliver their product need to change? If it does not, then it needs to be justified why it does not. Supervisor stated he wanted to hear specific plans on the changes MAF was willing to make. MAF is very open to change. Over the last 4 decades, we have adapted and excelled in the changes brought to the employment and training world by the federal government. MAF has worked under CETA, JTPA, WIA, and now WIOA. All of these employment and training legislations require changes in the training service delivery mode. We are also very willing to learn recruitment and marketing to help recruit participants to our program. It is unfortunate that after years of asking ETR why the enrollments were steadily declining due to ETR's lack of marketing our programs, ETR chose to wait until May of 2019 to state they were not responsible for filling classrooms. Had they shared that sooner, we could have addressed this years ago. In order to assist us, we became clients with the CSUB Small Business Development Center to receive guidance on marketing. We have attended webinars and met on 2 occasions with a marketing consultant. What we have found is that without funding and dedicated staff to marketing, we will not get very far. We have a very small staff of 4 persons dedicated on a full-time basis to the Skills Center. There are 3 instructors and the program coordinator. Program supervision, clerical function, and information management is provided by the equivalent of 1 1/2 full-time employees. We have also worked and cultivated a relationship with the Department of Human Services. We have recently held meetings and have come up with a referral system to our programs. There are 70 social workers at DHS who make referrals to assist their clients meet their mandated participation and work-related activities. Again, we have made presentations to the staff and provided our marketing materials to each of the social workers. While we know that not all of the persons at the DHS office are now prepared to participate in a training program, we feel if each one of those 70 social workers made just 1 referral per year, we could come very close to meeting the enrollment goals of 100 persons per year. Supervisor Gleason. Supervisor stated it is basically centered on mathematics. Staff has $1.4 million to spend. What is the best equitable and fair way to spend it to help as many people as possible? If one group isn't performing, then shifting performance-based contracts make sense. On this, I will share had ETR wanted to, they had more than $1.4 million they could spend. ETR's budget last year was at around $40 million. The WIOA portion of ETR's $40 million budget was slightly over $10 million, including the Kern. ETR actually had $10 million available, and by law is obligated to spend a minimum of 30% of its WIOA budget on training. There is nothing in the law that says they cannot spend more than the 30% of their WIOA funding on training. We are sure this board is aware of our rather dismal demographics. We have chronically high unemployment, which more often than not is 2 or 3 times the state or national averages. We have low educational attainment. and almost a quarter of our population lives on poverty income or less. For an area touted as the breadbasket of the world, we have one of the highest rates of food insecurity in the nation. The need to spend more than 30% of required by law on training is most certainly justified, and ETR should consider increasing this 30% to have more of a positive impact on our demographics. Supervisor Gleason stated he was not clear on the COVID-19 effect. Basically what this means is these demographics will be compounded due to COVID. The recovery will be slow. Jobs will return, but not all. Many will be permanently displaced as business struggle to recover and will be looking for training opportunities. Just how bad this will be is still to be determined, but we should be ready to help as many people as possible. For us not to do that will only exacerbate an already bad situation. I would like to address briefly some comments made by the ETR director at the last board meeting. The director shared that as a result of converting to the ITA model, their offerings and the numbers of training had increased to 231 training programs, and there was a lot more competition for clients walking through the door. There are 231 training programs eligible to provide WIOA-funded training in Kern County. However, ETR has ITA training contracts with only about 12 of these providers, and half of these providers had training contracts with ETR prior to converting to the ITA system. They continue to offer essentially the same trainings prior to going ITA, which include truck driving, welding, medical assisting, nursing, and barber colleges. The way to pay for training may have changed, but other than a couple of new trainings, there has been no major change in the types of trainings being offered, and the types of training and number of trainings being offered. The director also stated that they worked with MAOF and had done tremendous amount of marketing for MAOF. Any marketing assistance provided by ETR has been minimal and the result of MAOF's constant insistence that ETR market our programs. The open house the director referred to was an idea ETR presented with MAOF doing the work. Another idea that was presented by ETR was to produce a series of videos featuring MAOF clients who had successfully completed the program and were employed. The idea was to produce 10 videos. MAOF was very excited about this. We searched for and contacted 10 former clients who were very excited and agreed to participate in the videos. We informed ETR we had the 10 persons available for the videos. ETR then said that's too many and they only wanted to do 3. This idea came about in January 2019. It was not until August, a full 8 months later, did we see one of the videos that ETR, the first video that ETR produced. We cannot impress upon you enough how important it is for Kern County to be able to continue to provide training opportunities to multiple groups of people in high demand occupations, in particular to persons who face multiple barriers to employment. Our demographics demand it. The workforce development programs in Kern County should be working in as many ways as possible to reduce our chronically high unemployment rates, our high poverty rates, and our low educational attainment. Kern County's poverty rates are among the highest in the state. We should work together in partnership for the betterment of our community. You are not being asked to take a chance and support a new program. You are being asked to support 2 programs with over 4 decades of proven, demonstrated effectiveness in working with persons facing multiple barriers to employment. These programs have proven to be the game changers in the lives of thousands upon thousands of Kern County residents. Success in working with persons who have multiple barriers results in help breaking the cycle of poverty and reduces reliance on public assistance. We have seen it over and over again. It is also important for you to understand that success begets success. When someone puts in the hard work and experiences success, it is human nature to want more. Once someone who's gone through our programs gets that first little job doing payroll or as an administrative assistant, they get to see they have the opportunity for even more success and will work hard and continue to grow. These careers are natural launching pads for career growth. Many of our students, once employed, see that in order to grow their careers, they need to return to school. And they do just that. For many, completing the training is the first stop. Many of our students have gone back to school, obtained their degrees in order to continue their growth. Many of our former students are now business owners and employers themselves. Just before COVID hit, we had a visit from a former bookkeeping student from 10 years ago who, right after completing her training, obtained employment as a payroll clerk with a company. She is now the HR director of this company with over 300 employees in 3 states. She came to share her success with us as well as provide us with information on some positions within her company. Another young man we had was working in the field. He heard a commercial ETR had at the time about training programs they had available for farm workers who wanted to be farm workers. The young man went to ETR and was referred to MAF's medical assisting program that we had at the time. He successfully completed the program and went on to graduate from the physician's assistant program at Stanford University. Today, he's a practicing physician's assistant and part owner of the clinic he went to as a child. Just imagine, a commercial ETR ran to attract persons to training began this young man's quest to lift himself from the poverty farm workers live in to become a trusted medical provider as well as a business owner and employer. He also gives back to MAF in the community as his clinic has hired several of MAF participants in the past. In our travels to find answers, MAOF met with Mr. Tim Rainey. Mr. Rainey is the executive director of the California Workforce Development Board, which is mama to the Kern County Workforce Development Board. MAOF had several conversations with Mr. Rainey. Our conversations with him only confirmed what MAOF had maintained on this situation all along. ETR had stopped marketing our programs at the level needed to maintain full enrollment. Customer choice is a great thing. ETR, however, should do the marketing to share those choices with the community other than only when a customer walks into the ETR building. In our first conversation with Mr. Rainey, he shared he did not care for the ITA training model. The Department of Labor is who determines the training delivery model to be used, and states are charged with implementing them. Mr. Rainey stated the reason he did not care for the ITA model was the America's Job Centers, and here locally, ETR, did not do any outreach. They just, quote, wait for the private schools to send them the clients. And indeed, the decline in MAF enrollments began after ETR implemented training using ITAs. As a reminder, while the regs say ITAs have to be the primary source of training delivery, they don't say it's the only training delivery method to be utilized. Contract training has always been left in the legislation and is meant to give local areas the flexibility it needs to address their local training needs. Our alarming demographics, as well as the high demand there is in business service occupations, clearly call for the ability to train multiple groups of people. It is perfectly acceptable to have ITAs and contracted training. In addition, with regard to marketing, Mr. Rainey shared if ETR did not want to market the program, they should give MAF the funding needed to market our programs, as marketing is an allowable program expense. MAF also shared with Mr. Rainey how increasing enrollment did not necessarily mean having to spend funds on advertisement. We feel strategic recruiting efforts designed to create pipelines of persons from agencies we have a shared client base with should be created. An example we pointed was ETR's local plan. In February of last year, ETR amended its local plan to include the Department of Child Support and persons on the SNAP program. The Department of Child Support stated they have over 52,000 persons living at poverty income or had unstable income in their caseloads. And again, we also, they're mandated to work with the food stamp programs, which is known as SNAP. Strategic outreach with these 3 county departments, again, Child Support, SNAP, and the Department of Human Services, would open the doors to all training opportunities available at ETR and could easily exceed the enrollment goals. Mr. Rainey shared the state wanted these agencies to work together in reaching persons with barriers to employment. For this reason, the state had mandated the ETRs of the world to amend their local plans to reflect they would work with the Department of Child Support, the SNAP program. It has been said that MAF would make more money if it went ITA. This would not be the case as ETR has no intention of referring the number of students MAF would need to remain solvent. According to EDD, the demand for careers retraining are the highest demand occupations in Kern County. You have thousands upon thousands of Kern County residents with multiple barriers to employment who are in need of training services. You have a nationally accredited training institution with proven effectiveness in serving targeted populations. There's only one missing piece to this puzzle, and that's the recruitment, which until a few years ago was there, and when enrollment goals were typically exceeded. We do not believe that ETR's position that they are not responsible for filling classrooms under the contract training model is in the best interest of the community as it should be. Our recruitment skills are growing, and we are committed to continuing to grow them. But without the funding that allows us to hire outreach staff, we cannot elevate our recruitment efforts to the scale needed to meet enrollment goals. ETR has the funding and expertise to ensure those most in need are provided training opportunities and ensure cost effectiveness. We would also like to add for ETR to expect an agency without the funding, experience, or staff to increase enrollment numbers in 8 months was unfair not only to MAOF, but also to the community we are here to serve. On several occasions over the last few years, the ETR director has shared with the Workforce Development Board there was no problem with MAOF's performance. She said MAOF placement and job retention rates were fine. The problem was that not enough people are choosing MAOF's training, which drives the training costs up. You have in front of you 2 reports called Return on Investment. EDD conducts follow-up on the effectiveness of training programs by measuring former trainees' increases in wages once they complete the program and obtain employment. These reports show that despite increased training costs in the beginning, at the end of the day, there is a return on the investment to the taxpayer. This return makes ETR's position that due to less people choosing our programs increases training costs a moot point. Please see the first report with the date ending 6/30/18. MAOF's information is on the second page. The report shows that for every training dollar invested in our clerical programs, the taxpayer received a return of $1.61. For the bookkeeping program, the report shows that for every training dollar invested, the taxpayer received a return of $2.50. On the second return on investment report on page 2 for the previous year, the return for every training dollar invested into the clerical program, the return was $3.61. For the bookkeeping program, the return for every training dollar invested was $4.22. Just think of how much higher the return on investment would be if our programs were fully enrolled. We should be working to increase the return to the taxpayer by increasing enrollment instead of taking actions that will essentially defund our successful programs. This would truly be a disservice to our community in need. The bottom line of our training program, if we take 10 steps away from the back and forth of ETR and MAOF and these meetings, is that our return on investment is far higher than most training at the fraction of the cost. In order for all of us to be good players, good stewards of fellow taxpayer money, a more detailed look at the return on investment provided by the state should be considered when making the decisions. I can drag on and on about the lives that have been changed by MAOF because of our programs, but at the end of the day, we need to see that tax dollars are being spent in a manner where we get the most bang for our buck, so to speak. While ETR has focused on the amount of cost per participant, that is the cost up front, let's talk about what we get for those costs up front and how the returns on investment far outnumbers the programs that ETR prefers. MAOF wants to continue to be a good partner. Business service occupations, as stated previously, are the highest demand occupations in Kern County with several thousand vacancies yearly. We believe in the objectives of our program. We respectfully request your board to fund MAOF at the level needed to continue providing these vital services to the residents of Kern County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Olivia Garcia. Ms. Garcia, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you can address the board. Also, if you are on a speakerphone, it would be appreciated if you take it off speaker. That helps with the reverb.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Lupita Perez, and members of the board. Thank you for granting me the opportunity to speak. My name is Olivia Garcia, and I'm the chair-elect of the Kern County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today on behalf of the Hispanic Chamber to express our support of the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation. We ask that you please approve MOF's request to receive the original funding for contract training of its bookkeeping and clerical programs for the program year 2020 and 2021. We are concerned about ETR's currently proposed funding recommendation before you for the program. If you look at the ETR table, the $1.2 million proposal actually covers other organizations. The proposed funding portion for MOAF is significantly less than the original funding for contract training for MOAF. Such proposed reductions in funds for MOAF programs could only reduce access and limit opportunities for hard-to-serve individuals. Now, aside from being the chair-elect of the Hispanic Chamber, I'm also a college professor, but I spent 20 years as a local journalist. As a newspaper reporter, a big part of my role was giving a voice to the voiceless and covering poor and low-income communities where despair often prevailed more than hope. While doing my reporting, I encountered Magda Menendez in the work of MAOF. Over the years, I've interviewed different participants and observed the programs MOAF offered. I also learned that the organization's name itself is a misnomer. MOAF appears as if it only serves Mexican Americans, but in reality, it has historically served people of all races and ethnicities in Kern County who meet qualifying income guidelines. We're talking about people in poverty and people struggling beyond so many means. Through my reporting, I found that MOAF largely served the hard-to-serve population, those faced with historical, generational poverty, or the recently incarcerated who often felt they had no second chance at redemption. MOAF changed that for many of them. It not only gave them hope, it equipped them with life skills and work experience that led them to jobs and better opportunities at life. And we're also talking about social skills, things that we take for granted, such as learning how to budget, learning how to communicate with others in the workplace. I can say with confidence that the work of MOAF does in changing the life of the hard-to-serve individuals is unmatched. There's no other organization that can connect with the hard-to-serve the way MOAF has and continues to do so. Magda's right. The organization is a stepping stone for many individuals, with a number of them realizing that education is now within reach. In closing, I would ask that you truly consider the impact MOAF makes on individuals, and it can only continue to do so with the full funding support that you have traditionally given. This is also so critical in light of COVID-19. People need to be reached out to. They need to know that we have not given up on them. There's so many people unemployed who need skills that can open up new doors and opportunities, and that's what this organization does. Their work is invaluable. They build foundations that lead to successful, productive lives that carry on with renewed hope and confidence, and break that generational poverty or pipeline to prison. Please continue being part of this journey by continuing to fund MOAF at its original request. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Thomas Martinez. Mr. Martinez, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6 and take it off speaker, you may address the board.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good, thank you. Yeah, well, before commenting on ETR and MAOF, just a quick comment on your previous item 17. Yeah, lobbying clearly is prohibited with federal funds, particularly nonprofits. So, it's probably just a real quick point, that lobbying specific. Advocacy, obviously organizations do advocacy and education, but IRS has a lot of rules on that. Okay, but I'll move on. Anyway, just real quick, on this particular issue, probably most of all, it strikes me as a concern from a public management and leadership perspective, particularly the tone and the position that ETR is taking on this matter. Here we're dealing with an organization, MAOF, which has a proven record of effectiveness for 40 plus years in Kern County and more, beyond. And only very recently, apparently, as this recent concern emerged. So it's kind of a little confusing why all of a sudden a program that has a long-standing reputation for being effective is being looked at in this regard. As mentioned earlier, I did see some of that California EDD report on net return on investment for 2016, 2017, 2018. Yeah, and it shows very clearly that the net return for dollar investment is very positive for their administrative skills and clerical skills courses, bookkeeping, in the $3 to $4 per dollar range, which is excellent, right? If somebody gave me $1.50 for every dollar invested, I'd do that every day of the week. But so I don't quite see the concern. But anyway, as I say, also to me, it seems to me like there's an issue here with the agencies needing to work together collaboratively and in good faith. Saying, as a public administrator, as a professor, right? That's what I do. I teach public administration, management, public management, leadership, public policy. That's what I do. But in this world of ours, public agencies, we're not handed effective programs. Our obligation as administrators, managers, is to make programs work, right? So it seems to me that the issue here is ETR and MAOF from working from a good faith perspective, have to say, okay, how do we make these programs work? And in that regard, it's mentioned that it looks from the letter that I saw, the language, reading between the lines, and explicitly, it seems to me that ETR is trying to move away from its long-time obligation to be involved in recruitment, referral, outreach for individuals for these various programs, and they're trying to pass that obligation on to the individual contract program, which doesn't quite make sense. ETR is the one who, in the county-wide perspective, is obligated to make sure all of these programs work. So it seems to me they ought to be sticking with that larger obligation to make all of these programs effective and efficient. I'll just make a quick note. My read of the letter from ETR seems to make no more than a short-term commitment to assisting with a little bit of radio spots in regards to outreach, recruitment, marketing. But obviously, today's world, we know very well that any outreach, recruitment effort has to include a whole strategy, effective strategy for getting the word out on these kind of programs. Radio spots, as it was listed in the letter alone, that's a very limited way to even talk about this. You just including, I didn't see any strong reference to commitments to digital communications. That just seems like it ought to, just automatically ought to have been part of the discussion. So anyway, the primary point is, as I say, with regards to the whole discussion, it seems to me that you have an issue here. And why, I don't know. ETR seems to be moving away from its commitment to what has been and a very effective program for many, many years. It seems that there's an interest in moving towards the OJT model, the on-job training. But as I mentioned earlier, before my university days, I came up in the employment and training world, actually along with John Nyland, if I mentioned that last time. He and I worked together for many years. Then he veered off. Well, I say veered off. He continued and went on to ETR and became director before he was your CEO, and I veered off into higher ed. But in that regard, we all know in the job training world that OJT is a strategy that's best suited for semi-skilled workers who are displaced, and you try and get them into another semi-skilled area. We're going to redirect them into some new skills in a new area. But classroom training is, in terms of our local population, really does serve those in most need, the ones who are largely unskilled and require basic skills simply to get into the work world and to be able to survive. And as mentioned earlier, I think you have to recognize that these kind of programs for that kind of hard-to-serve population has tremendous impact, not only on those individuals, but on those families. You have someone who a mom or a dad who begins with basic skills and moves into a productive work situation, that impacts those kids and those families. So you're basically having a whole cyclical impact and structural impact on families with these kind of programs, which is not the same effect that you get from OJT, on the job training kind of placements. So anyway, with that, I'll just say that it seems to me that the obligation here is to work with the programs and make them work, and find out if something's not working today or we're having some issues today, how do we make it work? It's been working for 40 years plus. We obviously have the commitment, the staffing, the people who are committed to this. They can do it, but as I say, it takes collaboration and good faith work on a day-to-day basis, not a short-term 6-month or 1-year commitment, which seems to me, unfortunately, like a little bit of a setup to justify the funding very soon, which clearly will not benefit this community. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Pete Parra. Mr. Parra, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6 and take it off speaker, you can address the board.
Madam Chair, members of the board, honorable members of the board. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you and thank you for the job you do. Just listening this morning, you had a variety of subjects, controversial subjects, important subjects to our community. And I just wanted to congratulate you on how you handle these situations. And, at one point I was on your chair, sitting there, we're facing similar controversial issues, and I know how difficult it is sometimes to deal with these. But I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. I know sometimes you go unappreciated and condemned for some of the votes that you take on positions that you do take. But today I'm here, and it's not often that I come before the board to talk about issues, but I think based on my personal history, I have some elements I could share with you over my experience and history in employment and training. But first of all, thank you for ratifying or approving item 20, the agreement with Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties. Just some historical perspective on that. Way back in the early 80s, when the state decided that they would not fund any county with less than 100,000 in population, there was tremendous problems in some of our small counties who didn't meet that threshold. Inyo and Mono contacted Kern County, or staff, and we had various discussions with the board at that time and with their boards. And trying to be the good neighbor, they wish to be tied to Kern County rather than be called what they call a balance of state, which they would be under the control of the state of California. That board at that time, our board, decided that as a good neighbor, it was the right thing to do. Now, to be honest with you, it does cost us a little bit of money. We have some certain responsibilities of monitoring and making sure that Inyo and Mono County, since we are the lead county, that they provide the services and they're running their programs as the intent of the legislature or the law itself. So I want to thank you for continuing that agreement. I think it's been good for Inyo and Mono, and of course it's been good for us to extend our hand and be good neighbors again. In dealing with item 21, And since there's been a lot of talk about the client choice, if you would indulge me in a little story. There was a small boy born in the United States whose parents came from Mexico. The father never went to school. The mother went to the 3rd grade, migrated to the United States to make a better life for their children, for their families. They moved in here to Bakersfield, and because of the limited abilities of the father and the mother, they became farm workers. They, including the small boy, worked the fields from Arvin, Lamont, Mettler, all the way up to the Santa Rosa area, working all the crops in between, migrant farm workers. That was the history of that small boy. That small boy never started school on time or finished school at the time that the school closed, because they were out working the fields. Because he, along the way, met some outstanding teachers that took some interest in his life, he learned how to work hard, learn English, become a good student, went on to high school, and by the way, he was the youngest of 12 children. Finished high school, and the counselors asked him, "What is your career choice? What do you want to do as a career?" The young boy answered, "I want to get out of the hot sun, come into an office, and wear a white shirt." The young boy went to BC, and there he started his career as a bookkeeper, learning to become a bookkeeper. He went on to Fresno State and graduated magna cum laude in accounting. After that, he served the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. That young boy, you might have guessed, is me. My career choice and that thousands of children that are still facing today, and young adults, both men and women, when you talk about career choice, you're really talking about how they're going to survive, how they're going to make money to feed their families. It's as simple as that. Their future is rather limited because, again, as explained by others, we have one of the highest poverty rates, literacy rates, and our unemployment is third county in the state of California after Imperial and Tulare County. That's very important to note, that we face, because of that, an uphill battle. Now, that young man, who's an old man now, became Director of Employers Training Resource in the 80s and 90s. Understood the issues of those that need those with multiple barriers of unemployment. And we designed a system at that time. Yes, there are programs that are easier for the clients to succeed in because they have a basic good education and can transition into work much easier than those who have lack of basic skills, who don't know English, who lack the counseling and support. We heard a lot about OJT. Realistically, and individual training contracts. But let me talk a little bit about OJTs and why they're so successful. OJTs, the employer hires them first. They're on the payroll. He hires them, or she hires them, sends them to ETR to get certified, see if they're eligible. If they're eligible, they're enrolled in a program and they go back to the employer. That almost assures 100% success rate. Now you take an individual who lacks literacy skills, basic skills, social skills, who lacks just the fundamental needs that a family or an individual needs. It takes a special organization, a special teacher, a special counselor, a special organization that can meet those needs and help them through the system. We design a system where, taking that in consideration, those easily transferable to jobs and those in need, and put a matrix or a combination of programs to meet those performance standards that the state has, that we initiated ourselves. We knew through the mix of the program, meeting, serving hard to serve, and serving those that we knew would be readily marketable. We knew that at the end of the year, we can make those performance standards. Every year, over 22 years that I was director, we met performance standards every year. And I know under John Nyland, those were met. And under every director, those performance standards were met. ETR, we have great staff. I appreciate the staff of the county. I appreciate the staff of ETR. But I also know that we must take a look at the total picture and not turn our backs on those that are most in need. We can be very successful, meet every standard, plus if we turn our program all to OJTs or individual training contracts, because most of those are already being selected by the training provider under the individual training contract and sent to ETR to get certified. That guarantees enrollment. That guarantees their job. But those people that live in our rural areas, the poor people, those lacking literacy, they don't have that expertise. They don't have the immediate skills. They need our help. They need your help. They need the community's help. I'm asking, I implore you to take a look at the big picture. MAOF is home based in Los Angeles. They're one of the largest nonprofits in the state of California. Their board of directors are the leading industry leaders in the state of California. They are well run, well organized, and well directed. People here that have been with MAOF, people like Supervisor Couch, you talked about your father, Ray. Ray was a good friend of mine. Richard Prado, Magda Melendez, Martin Castro. All these individuals have dedicated their lives and their careers to make Kern County a better place to live. And those families a better place for them. I'm sure that within the talent of ETR, under your direction, we can make this work. We have made it work for over 40 years. And today is not the time to shut that door. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We're going to go to Leo Bautista. I understand he has a meeting to go to. So, Mr. Bautista, if you would go ahead and unmute your phone by pressing *6 and present your comments to the board.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Leo Batista. I am the Human Resources Manager with Kern Oil and Refining. I've been affiliated with Employers Training Resource, also known as America's Job Center, since 1995, and I'm proud to serve on the board for over 25 years. First as a business member at large, and since 2006, serving as chairman of the Business and Services Committee. Also a member of the Executive Committee and the Vice Chair of the Board. As you can see by the presentation, Teresa Hitchcock and her staff worked tirelessly to provide information and guide the board through the various grants and programs to offer employment assistance and meet the needs of business. The team is resourceful in uncovering funding and programs to benefit the community of job seekers and employers, which in our current environment is not an easy task. The staff provides the Business Services Committee with recommended programs, grants for consideration. Funding recommendations are thoroughly reviewed, and approving fund sources are sent to the Executive Committee. The Executive Team reviews the staff and business and programs recommendations. When approved by the Executive Committee, it's then presented to the board at large for discussion. And trust me when I tell you, full board meetings have been lively through comment and discussion. On occasion, you send an aide to make comment. However, they leave once they've conveyed your position on an item that is being discussed. I invite you to attend and participate in one of our meetings to truly understand and experience our review process. With respect to the funding set before you, last year MAOF appealed our funding recommendations, and the appeal was granted by your board. The board recommended goals for MAOF. Unfortunately, MAOF was not successful in meeting the goals that were established. We, as your board, manage the limited funds available to assist employers and, more importantly, job seekers. We do not relish limiting funds to MAOF. In fact, it has brought about lively, passionate discussions. Your board has entrusted us to be good stewards of the public funds. In our attempt to do so, we ask that you accept the funding recommendations set forth before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bautista. We're now going to hear from Michael Dyer with the Office of Assemblymember Rudy Salas. Mr. Dyer, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6 and address the board.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair and honorable members. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Dyer. I'm a legislative aide for Assemblymember Rudy Salas, Assemblymember for the 32nd District of California. Assemblymember Salas is currently in the Capitol finalizing the legislative year, but he asked me to speak in support of MAOF and the work being done to support workers in Kern County, especially during these challenging economic times for our families. I'd like to begin by thanking the Kern County Board of Supervisors, DTR, and MAOF, and the Workforce Development Board for working together on this issue and making sure that our residents are being served in the best way possible. MAOF has for years provided affordable, high-quality training and education courses for high-demand occupations in Kern County. The vocational training and work experience programs that the MAOF Skills Center provides our community play an important role in providing pathways to increased wages and better job opportunities. In 2017, MAOF's program returned more money to our local economy than it took in. If we can raise the number of individuals referred to MAOF, that return on investment will only grow. They've already proven to be successful in helping those who have struggled in the past find a career that they can thrive in. MAOF has hundreds of success stories of former students who went on to have fulfilling careers that they otherwise would have never dreamed of. The guidance and assistance these students have received act as a stepping stone, and many former MAOF members have continued to further their education well past what is required for entry-level work. MAOF has the capacity to improve the lives of many of our residents that would otherwise struggle to find gainful employment. If this issue requires more time to ensure that MAOF and Kern County have a solid plan in place for the future success of their programs, then I respectfully ask this board to provide the time and effort required. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We'll now go to Alyssa Reed. Ms. Reed, if you would unmute your phone by pressing *6, you may address the board.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow supervisors. The matter before you on the funding for the WIO programs for the 2020-2021 program year. Our board, I'm a member of the Workforce Development Board and currently the chair. I've been associated with the board for the past 8 years, and I am also the Vice President of Safety and Employee Development for Kern Oil and Refining Company. And I've been a human resources professional in Kern County for the last 20 years, associated with utilizing the services of the Employers Training Resource and America's Job Centers, as well as a member of the board. And I can echo Leo's comments, Mr. Batista's comments, about the effort that the board goes through, whether it be in one of our subcommittees or the full board, of reviewing the funding recommendations, reviewing the proposals. We have board members that participate in reviewing the proposals submitted by each organization, as well as discussion going through how do we allocate the money. We have limited resources, and so at some level, to feel like we're doing our due diligence and our being good stewards of this money, that we must take into account the outcome and the participation in the training. And so it's for that reason that we feel like we need to move to performance-based metrics with some of this contracted training that exists. And, we fully want to support the organization, the MAOF organization, and be successful with them. We do feel like they have provided a good service to our community and to the participants, and we would like to see them be able to continue to do that. However, just as a board, and having limited resources and looking at the participation and the cost of this program, we don't feel like it's advisable for us to continue to fund a program that has such limited participation and has such a disparate cost per participant numbers in comparison to our other programs. For that reason, we would hope that you would follow suit and with what you have done historically and take our recommendations and approve the recommendations funding before you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We possibly have one more speaker. If Steve Flores is available, Mr. Flores, please unmute your phone by pressing *6 and you may address the board. Madam Chair, it was my understanding that Steve Flores wanted to speak, wasn't registered, but was somehow going to be able to, possibly he was with one of the other speakers and was going to address the board. I'm not sure if it's his intention to address the board or not. He did not register, so I don't have a number connected to his name.
Okay. Thank you very much for that update. I think we have had plenty of opportunity for him to call in and hold, or now, if you're out there, Mr. Flores, now's the time for us to hear from you. But that brings us to the end, I believe, of our public input portion of this item. And I'm going to now close the public hearing and return to the board for comments, question, action, to see where we want to go with this. Gentlemen.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Couch. I did not see you punched in.
I didn't. I apologize. Can you describe for us, because I don't remember exactly, what is different about this recommendation than what was before us a couple of weeks ago? Is it just the 40,000 or so that's been added?
No. So last time the recommendation was simply to fund MAOF for 6 months with $160,000. And then on January 1, they would have converted to the ITA model. The current recommendation is to provide the 6 months worth of funding with metrics, which, by the way, it's interesting. The metrics that were proposed last year were the metrics that MAOF actually proposed in their response to our RFP. So ETR did not pick those metrics out of the air. MAOF actually had proposed in their RFP response to serve 50 people in each program. We simply said that they needed to beat 80% of that by March in order to be eligible for a full year of funding the next year. So those were their own metrics. So the proposal right now is to add metrics to the 6-month contract that, if met, it would roll over to a full year of funding.
And in detail, what are the metrics?
So the metrics right now, because again, in their proposal, they did propose to serve 50 people through both the bookkeeping and clerical, although the clerical is not eligible right now. Only the bookkeeping program is eligible for funding under our program. The metric would be for 50 people for the full year, so we cut it in half, which was 25 people, and requested that they have 80% of their enrollments by December. 80% of the 25%, which is 20 people, essentially 5 people per month.
And how long is that class?
They don't have a time length on their class, so they're simply an open entry, open exit program. People can go into the program at any time during the year, and then they work at their own pace and they exit whenever they complete the required hours.
And what was there was a $40,000 piece that was for Eastern
That's
Kern?
for DHS because we run the Calworks work experience program, and MAOF is actually very good at that program and placing folks. And so Kern High School District, because of COVID, has reduced their ability to do that. Plus, East Kern's not actually in our Kern High School district, and they felt uncomfortable continuing to offer services outside of their district. So we asked if MAOF would be willing to take over that piece for some additional funding to support their infrastructure.
And is the piece in Eastern Kern the clerical?
No, that would be work experience. So work experience through Calworks is for people who are currently in the Calworks, DHS Calworks program. They can go to work and their wages are paid through that program in order to give them work experience. Many people on Calworks have never worked, so they don't have necessarily workplace skills. So work experience helps get them workplace skills because it's fully funded. Employers are more willing to take a chance on those employees and train them on what they need to know in order to actually successfully navigate the world of work.
Well, I want to say a couple things. And first is I want to thank you, but I really want to thank also Dina Murphy and her staff at DHS for reaching out to Magda and her staff and bringing forward that piece or being willing to engage in that. I want to thank all the speakers. Magda provided us with a lot of details. Some maybe you may disagree with or may be in a dispute, but I appreciate her presentation because she gave us a lot of details. And I appreciate, and I'm going to leave some people out here, but I appreciate Supervisor Parra for his description of the unique need that I think MAOF provides. I also want to thank the Kern Oil and Refining folks. Would they be utilizing mostly OJT on the job training?
They hire through our program. It depends on what they're looking for. Sometimes those employers do hire OJT, and we're very fortunate because a lot of the folks who are on our board will give reentry folks a chance through an OJT. So we're not just getting referrals from the employers. A lot of times we're taking our hardest to serve folks and placing them in an OJT because it does give an incentive to the employer to take a chance on someone they might not otherwise have taken a chance on.
Well, that's the hardest to serve is who I have the most interest in, and so I don't know how to put this together exactly, but it seems to me like I would prefer to give MAOF longer than 6 months because really we're talking about maybe 4.5 now, and I assume they've been marketing or whatever they're supposed to be doing for the last month and a half, but they really have had some uncertainty going forward here for the last month and a half or so. So that's my preference. I wait to hear what my colleagues have to say, but I think they serve a population that is in great need and underserved, and well, the speaker said it all. I think we get them, that population is moved from where they are to some sort of employment, and they act as a springboard to much greater job growth and career growth for people that if we don't do that work for them might not ever experience that. So I'm interested in supporting them to the fullest extent that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Gleason.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I start, Teresa, anything you wanted to say in general about the comments that were made?
So there are a couple of things that I would like to address. Number one, the marketing piece. I did show you some marketing pieces that were done specifically for MAOF. I know that the speaker from Cal State insinuated that ETR is not doing marketing in general, but we are. We do recruit in general. We right now have contracts with Buck Golden Studios, iHeart, Alpha Media, KBAK 29, KGET TV 17, KERO TV 23. We are constantly running radio and television ads in order to get folks who need this assistance into our doors. The problem is that it is client choice. So although we may have a lot of folks coming in, they do get to choose. And I appreciated Pete Parra's comments, really, because the power of choice is very powerful. I know used to people would come in and we would ask them, what is it that you would like to do? That's no longer the way we do things. We have assessment tests where we actually assess their skills, abilities, and their interests, because it is so important to link people to training that they're truly interested in order for them to be successful. So those methods that we're using in order to link people to training have exponentially changed over the years, but in the end, it's client choice. So if they test where they could be successful in a training and they choose that training, then that's where we're going to place them. So that's all I wanted to clarify right now.
Thanks. Would you characterize the marketing that, it sounds to me like you got a great marketing plan, but I'm not convinced that we've had a great marketing plan for the past couple of years, that it may have played some contributory role to the position we're in today. How would you characterize has our marketing plan been consistent? Has it been, talk about that.
It's been extremely consistent. So we have an active marketing department. I have about, I have 4 permanent people employed in my marketing department, and then I have extra help who come on and off as needed. We do an active social media campaign. We're very active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those types of social media platforms. We actually coordinate with our county marketing team in order to make sure that we're not only getting it across our social media, but the county's social media. We also have been paying for, at least since I've been there, radio, television. We started the cinema ads because we were trying to reach deeper into our youth populations, and we felt that movie theaters were a great place to reach those younger demographics. Obviously, that's not something that we can do right now since the theaters aren't open, but the marketing's been very active since I've been there. There's not been a lapse in marketing.
How long have you been there?
I've been there since 2015 or 16.
Okay, thanks. There's no doubt in my mind, I'm not as familiar with this as you guys have been, but there's no doubt in my mind, listening to the speakers speak, understanding Supervisor Couch's personal involvement in this, and that the history of MAOB is significant. It has played a significant role in our culture and our community, and I'm absolutely totally convinced that that has played a significant role in getting us to where we are today. I don't think you award contracts based on history. I think you award contracts based on the future. I mean, what do you want to pay people to do, and what do you want to achieve, and prove to me that you can do it, and that's what you base contracting on, and that's not what you base our taxpayer dollars on. So I appreciate the words from the lady, I forgot her name, from Cal State, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Parra. I thought you, and the representative from Mr. Salas' office. I really do appreciate it. I really listened, and Magda, thank you. And I want to understand the flavor and the history and the richness of MAOA, and I want them to succeed. And I would like nothing more than to see them flourish and to continue making the same significant contributions that they have in the past. But it's obvious that recent history, something's gone awry. Something's not happening. Something is not right, and something needs to be changed, and that's what we need to do, in my opinion. I got a couple of notes here. I want to. I'm interested in ensuring that taxpayer dollars are spent as efficiently as possible. I don't think we're doing that by continuing to just kick the can down the road here. I think we need to change it up. I think we need to excite and stimulate the program. And I think by going to the ITA model that seems to work for other people, I mean, the ITA seems to go in places that are good. And if it's good, then I don't know why we would change back the other way. Maybe we keep going with that, but I would let that decision be made by the WDB. I think they're the body to make the most efficient and best decision for the future, how we spend taxpayer dollars for that, the bookkeeping and the clerical training. Finally, for me to sit here and overturn a decision that has been made by a junior board, forgive the phrase junior, but to me to overturn the WDB's decision on this. Is it WDB or WBD? Whatever it is. WDB, right? Yeah, okay.
WDB.
It would take something definite and something convincing for me to overturn their decision, their recommendation. I think they've got a better handle on it and a more personal, intimate, familiar role to play in this, and I'm respecting who they are. So I'm leaning heavily on staff's recommendation, and I'm always listening to other comments from my fellow board members. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Gleason. Supervisor Scrivener.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Supervisor Gleason. I'll make a motion on staff's recommendation. I think that it's important for us with limited resources to maximize our outcomes, our return on investment. These performance-based metrics, we adopted them. These are our expectations. I think that in this case, we need to really look at participation versus costs. And the participation, unfortunately, has been limited. And I think that the work that MOF has done in the past has been excellent, and we appreciate them. But I think that we're moving into an environment where we need to be very judicious with the funds that we have. And I think that this performance-based model, this ITA model, is the way to go. So I'll make a motion on staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Scrivener, we have a motion.
I have a question.
Supervisor Couch.
If you get to the end of the year, calendar year, and they've met the metrics that you've laid out, if the motion passes, where's the additional 160,000, or is that what it would be?
Yes.
Where does that come from if we are fully funding this program right now?
So what happens is through the ITA model, we have contracts with the other 23 training providers right now. So if we're using more funding in MAOF, it would necessarily reduce the amount of funding that we have in ITAs. That's one of the issues with funding a program where we're not actually placing people, is that it's taking money where we could actually help people through other programs. But if they're meeting their performance metrics, then of course we would want to fund that program that's meeting its enrollments so that we're helping the most people possible.
And that it doesn't ever occur that we'd run out of money in the middle of the year.
We roll over about 20% of our funding every year. It's allowable under our funding stream. So no, we don't typically run out of money mid-year.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you want to ask for any modifications, Supervisor Couch, based on the timing question?
What do you mean by that?
You had said something about the time, that give them more time. Do you want to modify the motion or ask for?
I would love for it to be a year instead of 6 months, but I don't sense that that's that's my preference, but I don't sense that there's a lot of will to do that.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
From my point of view.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Gleason, is that an amendment that you would be open to?
I stand by what I've seconded.
Okay. Okay. Supervisor Maggart, just saw you punched in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Hitchcock, let me preface this with one other comment first. I have great respect for Pete Parra. I worked with him as a school board member. His family has impacted the lives of my family. I have immense respect for him. And the story that he told us about his life and young people like him are exactly who I want us to be able to continue to reach. Not nearly as dramatic, but my family, the history of my family is full of very, very poor people who had very little opportunity, and doors opened for some of them and they moved on, and for others it never did and they never have. So I am concerned for people that have these plights, and I want to make sure that whatever we do, we continue to reach people like a young boy named Pete Parra several years ago. I'm not going to say a long time ago because I don't want to give Pete a hard time about that. But is there something, is there some aspect of the people that are benefiting from MAOF's program that our other programs cannot meet their need? Is there any aspect to the strategy or the way that those people are brought in and trained and move on that cannot be met by another of our programs? Ms. Hitchcock, could you answer that?
No. So we have a variety of programs. All of the folks that we serve are barriered populations. They're either long-term unemployed, they're single moms. They have a whole host of things that have kept them from necessarily being successful in the world of work. Our staff runs a number of trainings with folks to help get them some of those basic, we call them basic skills now, in order to navigate work. So, and then we would help them through other training programs. So the long answer is no, we have a number of training programs. I can think of Bakersfield Adult School that through the culinary program that they offer, they've had folks there who have developmental disabilities. They've had folks there who were reentry. They've had folks there who were English as a second language, obviously. They've had folks from all different walks of life that they've trained. So we do have other opportunities for folks who need those opportunities. We also have a farm worker program that we run, a CSUB book program for migrant children to help them be successful at CSUB. We have housing and utility supports for farm workers through that program who may be on a seasonal layoff. We have training, supportive services. So we run a number of programs specifically designed to help folks who are struggling. That's really the purpose of our program, is to help people access training, to help them access the middle class. That's our goal through all of the training that we offer.
So are there any participants, for example, in MAOF's program that might be recent release, parolees from prison? And if there are, do they have opportunities through other of our programs?
So right now, I'm not aware of a recent release parolee enrolled in MAOF's program. They have 2 people enrolled in bookkeeping right now, and I don't believe either one of them fit into that demographic.
Are there people of color being served both inside of MAOF's sector and the broader remainder of all of our other providers? So give me a feel for what kind of care we're giving and help we're giving to people of color.
So a couple of years ago, we took a look at our demographics because we wanted to make sure that we were adequately reaching out to populations of color within our community. And we serve about 65% of our folks coming through our programs that are enrolled are people of color.
Is that pretty much consistent both with MAOF's programs and with all the other providers?
I don't know specifically MAOF's demographics. If someone were choosing their program, then of course, whoever comes through the door is free to choose whatever program they feel best meets their needs. So those demographics may be different across different programs depending on how those choices are being made by the people coming into the centers.
One of the speakers that was on the line speaking to us said that it's, I might be paraphrasing, but this is the gist of what I took away from his comment, that it is ETR's responsibility to make these programs work. I don't agree with that. It is ETR's responsibility to help people work and to meet people wherever they are with whatever their need is and assist them to work. And it is the responsibility of the programs to make sure they are meeting that goal, not the opposite of that. If this goes forward and if I would like nothing more than MAOF to be successful and to demonstrate that they are, it is merited that they receive full funding and more as they do more. I would like to see that happen. But if that does not happen, I want to make sure that there isn't a single aspect of who they care for, who they provide training for, that isn't met by another program. So between now and when this term expires, I would charge you, Ms. Hitchcock, and your staff with making sure that there isn't a single aspect of MAOF's charge that isn't being met somewhere else. And if it is not being met somewhere else, then that means there is a need that they are able to meet that no one else meets. That might change my perspective on this. So, okay, thank you for the opportunity to ask some questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Maggard. Appreciate your questions. If there's nothing else, we do have a motion on the floor, and I will entertain the motion at this time. I'm not going to support staff's recommendation. I think I've talked ad nauseum about how I feel about this, so I won't belabor the points. But I think it is extremely unfortunate that we find ourselves in a position where the bureaucracy has placed I think, a stranglehold on an otherwise incredibly effective organization. And I just think that's extremely heartbreaking. So with that said, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 3 ayes, 2 opposed, Supervisor Couch, Supervisor Perez.
Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of our agenda, where we will be considering in closed session under the CAO's office 34, 35, and 36, and then under County Council item number 37. So thank you, Supervisor Couch, with a motion to adjourn. We'll be back at 2.